Recap of Fauda, Season 1, Episode 1 in English. Spoilers ahead. Fauda Season 1, Episode 1, Recap. Setup and context. The series opens with Doron Kabilio, a former undercover operative Mistarvam of Israel's Palestinian Affairs Unit, now living a quiet life off duty. However, he is drawn back into action when Mickey Moreno, his old commander colleague, informs him that Abu Ahmed Abu Hamd, a terrorist presumed dead, has resurfaced. Intelligence suggests that Abu Ahmed will attend his brother Bashir's wedding. The operation is urgent. The team must reassemble, infiltrate, gather intelligence, and possibly neutralize Abu Ahmed before he can make more damage. The mission begins and tension builds. Doron returns to the field, reuniting with former teammates. There's friction. Doron is rusty, emotionally distant, and must re-establish trust with the unit. The squad's plan is to infiltrate the wedding site undercover, identify Abu Ahmed's presence, and set up a strike. But the operation is complicated. The setting is crowded, civilian risks are high, and the enemy may be alert to infiltration. During the infiltration, things begin to go off script. Their cover is compromised, they encounter unexpected obstacles, and the mission's stakes escalate. Doron must act quickly in the face of uncertainty, personal stakes and consequences. As Doron juggles the mission, his personal life looms in the background, his relationships with his wife, family, and the tension between his duty and his domestic life. The episode hints at this balance and the strain he faces internally. A critical moment. During the strike, an innocent person is shot or collateral damage occurs, adding moral weight to the mission and making the team question their actions. This tragic outcome ignites retaliation and sets in motion the cycles of violence that become the backbone of the series. Climax and unresolved endgame. In the episode's climax, Doron confronts Abu Ahmed or his circle in a tense standoff. He believes he has the chance to finish what was started, killing Abu Ahmed, but the target escapes in the chaos. The fallout is immediate. Bashir is killed, Abu Ahmed's brother, possibly in the crossfire or as part of the conflict. The wedding turns into a scene of violence and loss. The team is left reeling. Intelligence is incomplete. Abu Ahmed remains active. His survival unsettles Doron and his unit. The final images set up the continuing cat-and-mouse game between Doron and Abu Ahmed. Recap of Fauda, Season 1, in English. Spoilers ahead. Fauda Season 1 Episode 2, Recap. Episode title. Having tasted action again, Doron pleads with Moreno to rejoin the squad. Meanwhile, Amal determines to martyr herself to avenge her husband. Main plot points and beats. 1. Doron's return and motivation. After the chaos of Episode 1, Doron Kabilio feels the pull of the field again. He has tasted action, the danger, the urgency, and realizes he's restless in civilian life. He approaches his former commander, Moreno, to plead to be reinstated to the unit. He believes that his experience, drive, and personal vendetta against Abu Ahmed Tawfiq make him indispensable in stopping further violence. 2. Amal's resolve. Amal, the bride-to-be from the wedding in Episode 1 whose family suffered greatly, is emotionally shattered. Her husband was killed, and she resolves to become a martyr, meaning she's determined to take action and possibly sacrifice herself to avenge her husband's death. This sets up some of her motivations for later episodes. 3. Team dynamics and instability. Doron's request to Moreno to rejoin highlights both trust and tension. Moreno is reluctant. Doron has been out of the field, and there's risk in reactivating him. The rest of the team, or those still active, watch with varying degrees of concern or hope. There are scenes showing Doron trying to adapt back to operational mindset, studying intelligence, interacting with field data, gearing up, showing he still has the skills. 4. Counter movements and threats. On the opposing side, the militant group, led by Abu Ahmed Tawfiq, is not idle. There are signs of retaliation. Amal represents part of that escalation through grief and rage. The militant side is beginning to respond to the intrusion from the Israeli unit in Episode 1, and is organizing plans of its own. The tension ratchets. Both sides understand that the stakes have risen. 5. Moral and personal costs. Doron's family personal life continues to loom as an undercurrent. The pull of duty, revenge conflicts with consequences. There are hints of emotional strain, guilt over what happened, concern for collateral damage, what being back in the field will cost him and those around him. Amal's resolve to martyr herself underscores how personal this conflict has become for civilians. 6. Climactic turning moment. By the end of the episode, Doran's re-entry to the squad is more or less approved, or at least moving forward, though not without risk. Amal takes steps toward her plan, whether in speech or action, to show she is serious. The episode ends with emotional tension. The audience is left knowing that more violence is coming, that reprisals are certain, and that the fragile balance between Doran's side and the militant side is tipping toward escalation. Character notes and development. Doran Kabilio, reaffirmed as a driven, morally complex character. He's not just seeking to kill an enemy, he's haunted, guilt-ridden, drawn by a sense of justice and a need to finish what was started. His internal conflict between home life and violence is deepened this episode. Moreno. As Doran's former commander, Moreno's reluctance reveals how dangerous these operations are, and the weight of responsibility for civilian lives, for his team, for mistakes. Amal. Her grief turns into purposeful rage. She is no longer just a victim, she begins to take agency even if that means self-sacrifice. Her arc is set up. Very emotional, very dangerous, very determined. Themes and implications. Revenge versus justice. Amal's urge to martyr herself in vengeance versus Doran's more operational goals set up the moral tension. Return to conflict. Doran's rejoining highlights what happens when someone is pulled out of danger but then re-enters it. The cost is high, blurring lines between civilian suffering, militant action, operatives' duty. Episode 2 deepens the sense that violence comes at a personal and communal cost. Escalation. The status quo has been shaken. Retaliation, moral stakes, personal vendettas, all escalate. Fauda Season 1 Episode 3, 1x03, Recap. Episode title, Summary line. Abu Ahmad leans on Walid to organize an immediate retaliatory attack, and Doran and Nurit go undercover to close in on their quarry. Key plot beats and events. 1. Retaliation planning by Abu Ahmad, Tawfiq. After the prior strike and death of Bashir, his brother Abu Ahmad, Tawfiq begins to mobilize and push his network for retaliation. He leans on Walid, his trusted lieutenant cousin, to help organize an assault or response to the Israeli covert operations. The sense is urgency. Let them know that attacking them will not go unanswered. 2. Doran and Nurit undercover operation. Meanwhile, Doran and Nurit, the female operative in the unit, go undercover to get closer to Abu Ahmad's circle. Their goal is to identify safe houses, gathering intelligence on who is aiding Tawfiq, and trace the chain of command. This deep infiltration is risky. Being exposed means immediate danger. 3. Escalating tensions and violence. The episode heightens the tension on both sides. For Abu Ahmad's camp, the push for retribution leads to bolder, more dangerous plots. For Doran's team, the pressure is higher. They can't afford mistakes now. As they close in, the risk of collateral damage or betrayal is ever present. This is part of the continuing, cat and mouse, structure of the season. 4. Character and moral weight. Doran's undercover role means he must navigate moral boundaries. He is closer now to people he might have to betray or confront. Nurit's role is also exposed to emotional strain. As a woman in the unit, her infiltration means she must balance visibility and danger. The episode underscores how operatives sacrifice personal peace and identity for the mission. This is more inferred from the broader tone of the show. 5. Cliffhanger, setup for next episode. The episode ends with rising uncertainty. Does Abu Ahmad find out about the infiltration? Will Doran and Nurit's cover hold? Walid's actions ramp up the threat. The next episodes will propel toward direct confrontation. While the exact ending beat is not fully detailed in the sources, this is consistent with how Fauda structures its suspense. Fauda S1E4, Recap. Episode title, Key Points. Doran aims to recruit Shurin to join his side. Abu Ahmad risks danger to see his wife. Moreno sends the team on a bold daytime raid. Key scenes and developments. 1. Recruiting Shurin. Doran recognizes that to penetrate Abu Ahmad's network, he needs better inside help. He looks to Shurin, a woman close to the militants, as someone who can bridge access or intelligence. Doran tries to convince her that aligning with him, the Israeli unit, could save lives or prevent further escalation. The exact persuasion tactics are emotionally charged. 2. Abu Ahmad's personal risk. Abu Ahmad Tawfiq receives information that makes him feel he must see his wife, despite the danger. The emotional pull is strong, pushing him into risky action. This demonstrates how personal stakes press even in militant leadership. 3. Daytime raid by Doran's team. Moreno orders a daytime raid, an operation in the daylight, higher risk, higher exposure, to strike a militant target. This raid is dangerous because of visibility, civilian presence, and less cover. The team must balance speed, stealth, and minimizing casualties. 4. Tension and betrayal threats. As Doran and Shuran's relationship deepens, suspicions arise. Some militant elements, or Abu Ahmad's inner circle, begin to question loyalties. The risk of betrayal is high. If Shuran is double-playing, Doran could be exposed. The raid intensifies those stakes. This is more implied from the drama of the series. 5. Climax and fallout. The raid produces mixed results. Some targets are hit, others slip away. Abu Ahmad's attempt to see his wife may lead to confrontation or near capture. Doran's maneuvering with Shuran sets up future conflict. Her choices will carry deep consequences for both sides. The episode ends with tension unresolved. Who betrayed whom, who is still loyal, and the cost of each action looms heavily. Fauda S1E5. Recap. Episode 5/1x05. A senior Israeli officer tries to smoke Abu Ahmed out of hiding, and Boaz joins the squad on an ambush. Also described. A senior officer tries to smoke Abu Ahmed out of hiding. Ali fights suspicions of duplicity, and Boaz joins the squad on a risky ambush. Key plot beats and developments. 1. Pressure to reveal Abu Ahmed's whereabouts. With Abu Ahmed Tawfiq still in hiding, the Israeli side escalates efforts to flush him out. Intelligence and field ops push to find any lead that can narrow his location or expose his network's safe houses. This becomes a prime mission. The longer he stays hidden, the more danger he represents. 2. Ambush operation and Boaz joins. The team plans a risky ambush. Boaz, Doran's brother-in-law and member of the unit, is integrated into this operation. The ambush is designed to surprise militants or intercept someone linked to Abu Ahmed's infrastructure, hoping to capture or weaken their support. 3. Suspicion, duplicitous motives and internal tension. The sources mention Ali, another character, facing suspicions of duplicity. His loyalties or actions are called into question by some in the unit or intelligence. Whether Ali is secretly collaborating, withholding information, or just misunderstood, his role becomes tense. 4. Smoke out strategy and high stakes. The smoke him out of hiding part refers to tactics like provoking movement, cutting supply communication lines, or using psychological pressure to force Abu Ahmed's network to expose itself. The operation involves high risk. If militants are tipped off or the ambush misfires, it could backfire severely. 5. Cliffhanger tension for next episode. As episode 5 closes, the ambush is underway. The team waits for the trigger moment, with tension high. Whether the plan succeeds, or whether the militants find a way to counter it, is left uncertain. Abu Ahmed remains elusive, and internal doubts, like about Ali's loyalty, add to the fragility of the operation. Fauda S1E6. Recap. Episode title, synopsis. Blamed for the disastrous ambush, Doran takes matters into his own hands and asks the team to join him on a mission to set things right. Major plot beats and developments. 1. Fallout from the ambush, blame and pressure. After the ambush carried out in episode 5, the Israeli side places significant blame on Doran and his squad. The operation didn't go as planned, and the consequences are severe. Doran is under pressure from higher-ups and from within his team to fix or redeem the failure. 2. Doran takes initiative. Rather than wait for orders, Doran resolves to take matters into his own hands. He pushes the team to mount a new mission, one aimed at righting wrongs, recovering lost ground, and restoring credibility. The idea is that some damage must be undone even if it means risk. 3. Asking the team to re-engage. Doran appeals to his teammates to support him in this new mission. Some may hesitate after the ambush, fearing further danger or fallout. But Doran insists that unity and action are essential. They cannot let the militants gain momentum. 4. Moral stakes and personal responsibility. Throughout, Doran is haunted by the mistakes and what happened in the ambush. He bears guilt, responsibility, and the personal weight of lives lost or endangered. His decision to act reflects both professional duty and emotional burden. The episode highlights how field operators carry consequences personally, not just politically. While details are not fully fleshed in the synopsis, this is implied by taking matters into his own hands. Fauda S1E7. Recap. 1x07. Episode summary. While Moreno tries to track down the rogue team, Doran sinks his hooks deeper into Shuren and takes drastic measures to make a prisoner exchange. And from Rotten Tomatoes. While Moreno tries to track down the rogue team, Doran sinks his hooks deeper into Shuren. Metacritic adds that the episode features attempts at a prisoner exchange. With that as framework, here are the major beats and thematic developments in Episode 7. Major plot beats and developments. 1. Moreno searches for the rogue team. The Israeli command structure is on edge. The rogue team, i.e. Doran and those operating somewhat outside official constraints, is under pressure. Mickey Moreno, the commander, intensifies efforts to locate, track, or rein them in. This involves coordinating intelligence, interrogations, and mobilizing assets. 2. Doran deepens involvement with Shuren. Doran's strategy increasingly involves Shuren, a figure inside the Palestinian community who has ties to militant elements. He sinks his hooks into her, building trust, leveraging her relationships, perhaps manipulating or persuading her to assist with locating Abu Ahmad Tawfiq or his network. The relationship is fraught. Shuren is wary, morally conflicted, and aware of danger. 3. Push for a prisoner exchange. Doran undertakes drastic measures to attempt a prisoner exchange. The idea is to trade a captive or leverage for someone held by the adversary, in hopes of getting key information or freeing captured teammates. That exchange is risky. It may involve letting militants gain leverage, exposing operatives, or revealing identities. 4. High stakes and moral risk. The tension in this episode comes from crossing lines. How far will Doran go with Shuren? How much can Moreno control Doran's more extreme tactics? The prisoner exchange gambit places not just the mission, but lives of operatives, civilians, and captives at risk. Betrayal, trust, and deception are front and center. 5. Cliffhanger tension for next episode. By the end of Episode 7, the pieces are more aligned for confrontation. The rogue team is being pressed. Shuren is more deeply implicated. The planned prisoner exchange looms as a pivot point. Will it succeed, or will it backfire? The episode closes with uncertainty. Which side will yield, and what will the cost be? Fauda S1E8. Recap. Synopsis. Key points. In the wake of the prisoner exchange, Doran disappears. Walid confronts Abu Ahmad about his tactics. Moreno's boss threatens to dissolve the team. Major plot beats and developments. 1. Aftermath of the prisoner exchange. Doran vanishes. The episode begins in the tense aftermath of a prisoner exchange that was expected to shift the balance. In that context, Doran disappears. His fate and location become immediate mysteries. His absence creates fear and uncertainty among his team and leadership. 2. Walid's confrontation with Abu Ahmad. Walid, who has been a loyal lieutenant to Abu Ahmad, confronts him regarding the tactics used in recent operations. He questions whether the direction being taken is wise or sustainable, suggesting internal disagreement or moral qualms. This tension signals cracks within Abu Ahmad's inner circle. 3. Pressure on the Israeli team, threat of disbandment. On the Israeli command side, Moreno and his superiors face pressure due to mission failures, political exposure, and operational losses. The boss threatens to dissolve the team if results don't improve or accountability isn't restored. This amplifies the tension. The operatives are under threat not just from militants, but from their own hierarchy. 4. Race against time and identity risk. With Doran missing, the team must scramble to find him, or risk losing more ground. Meanwhile, Abu Ahmad and Walid's internal conflict may change their tactics, making them more unpredictable. The episode plays heavily on uncertainty. Who holds power, who is trustworthy, and who will make the next fatal move? Episode 9, Season 1, Episode 9. Title. Key info. While suspicion grows between Abu Ahmed and his inner circle, Doran poses as a would-be suicide bomber to get perilously close to his target. Recap and major beats. Tensions within Abu Ahmed's Tawfiq's inner circle intensify. Members begin doubting loyalties, second-guessing orders, and suspecting betrayal. To penetrate deeper and draw out information, Doran adopts a high-risk disguise. He poses as a suicide bomber, hoping to infiltrate or get physically near militant strongholds. This maneuver places him in charge of nerve and moral risk. If the impersonation is discovered, he is directly exposed to enemy retaliation. Through this disguise, Doran seeks to locate key figures, safe houses, or the chain of command that supports Abu Ahmed. The episode ends with heightened suspense. Does Doran's ruse succeed, or does it backfire? The inner suspicion among militants likely leads to confrontation or betrayal. Episode 10, Season 1, Episode 10. Title Key Info. Doran gets a surprise visitor while waiting to learn his fate. Abu Ahmed lays out his master plan that could change the region's balance of power. Recap and major beats. Doran, in a precarious position awaiting the outcomes of his risky infiltration, receives a surprise visitor, someone who may shift his standing, provide new intelligence, or challenge his assumptions. Meanwhile, Abu Ahmed reveals more of his long-term strategic vision, his master plan. This plan likely involves future attacks, political shifts, or use of leverage that could alter power in the region militarily, socially, or symbolically. The revelations force both sides to reassess. Doran must decide how to act with what new information he receives, while Abu Ahmed consolidates support or issues orders toward the next phase of his plot. Episode 11, Season 1, Episode 11. Title Key Info. Doran's bosses give him the go-ahead to carry out his plan, but he discovers the toll his family has paid for his obsession with Abu Ahmed. Recap and major beats. The Israeli command ultimately trusts Doran with full approval, or at least authorization, to execute his plan targeting Abu Ahmed. He is no longer just operating unofficially, but carrying institutional backing. However, the costs of his pursuit become painfully clear. He realizes his family, his wife, children, relationships have been damaged, neglected, or harmed because of his single-minded focus. He must now balance the mission's demands with the human consequences. The emotional weight and guilt he carries rise, threatening to destabilize his resolve or moral clarity. This episode likely sets up the final confrontation. With official sanction and personal stakes both high, the stage is set for a climax. Episode 12, Season 1, Episode 12. Title Key Info. While the team scrambles to give Doran backup on his mission into the Lion's Den, Waleed makes a decision that could change everything. Recap and major beats. The finale turns into a race. Doran advances into the Lion's Den, i.e. the heart of Abu Ahmed's network or safe stronghold. The team must coordinate to provide support, cover, extraction, or diversion. Meanwhile, Waleed, Tawfiq's lieutenant and trusted insider, reaches a critical turning point. He must make a pivotal decision, one that could upend loyalties, betray leaders, or reshape power. The climax likely involves confrontation, double crosses, the fates of major characters Tawfiq, Doran, the militant circle, and the resolution, or partial resolution, of the cat-and-mouse chase. Given how the plot threads culminate, Waleed's decision is often interpreted by fans as the moment he kills Abu Ahmed Tawfiq from behind, shifting leadership and altering the balance of power. One popular interpretation, from fan discussion, is that Waleed kills Abu Ahmed partly to protect Shirin, his cousin, and because he sees Abu Ahmed's methods as failing or too dangerous. Recap of Fauda Season 2, Episode 1 in English, spoilers ahead. Fauda Season 2, Episode 1, Recap. Setup and premise. At the beginning of Season 2, it's revealed that a Palestinian militant who was believed to have been killed 18 months earlier is in fact alive. This discovery forces Doran Kabilio, played by Lior Raz, out of retirement. He returns to active duty, rejoining his old team to hunt down this militant and finish what was never completed. The team's mission is not just military but personal. This enemy wants revenge against Doran himself. Key events and tensions. 1. Remobilizing the team. Doran reconnects with his old unit. The dynamics are tense. Some members question whether he should return, given the dangers in his past. In the first episode summary, Doran joins his old team for an operation. The target is ambitious, This militant is organizing bomb attacks and is determined to upend the region's stability. 2. New antagonist, Al-Makdisi. The season introduces a new adversary, Nidal, Al-Makdisi, whose motivations are rooted in grief and vengeance. He is positioning himself to challenge both sides, Israel and local militant organizations e.g. Hamas. Al-Makdisi's power and audacity make him unusually dangerous. He is not content to hide behind conventional militant tactics. 3. Conflict and moral complexities. The episode shows how Doran is emotionally burdened by returning to conflict. His personal life is strained, he has internal struggles tied to loss, relationships, and his identity as an agent. There is tension between revenge and justice. Doran and his team must balance operational ethics and the dangers of acting on personal motives. 4. Climactic operation, setup. The episode likely culminates in a covert operation to strike against Makdisi's network. While summaries are limited, the first episode's description suggests an active operation is launched. The fallout sets the stage, alliances shift, trust is tested, and the team confronts how dangerous this new enemy is compared to threats in Season 1. Themes and character arcs. Return from retirement. Doran's re-entry is not simple, he carries pain, guilt, and the ghosts of past missions into this new season. Revenge versus reason. Makdisi's vendetta against Doran becomes a central axis of conflict. The season frames revenge as a force that can corrupt and escalate violence. Gray morality in warfare. The boundaries between hero and aggressor blur. Both sides commit morally ambiguous acts. Loyalties and betrayal. Personal loyalties among teammates, families, lovers come under strain as the mission intensifies. Recap of Fauda Season 2, Episode 2 in English. Spoilers ahead. Fauda Season 2, Episode 2, Recap and Key Beats. Episode title, Synopsis hint. According to Rotten Tomatoes, tensions rise on both sides as Doran's team intensifies its hunt and Abu Samara hands Al-Makdisi an ultimatum. Shurin faces tough questions. IMDb summary says, Al-Makdisi refuses to let go. His attempts to harm Doran and his team lead him into conflict with Hamas political leadership and with Walid. Resulting from Al-Makdisi's action, Shurin is taken for questioning. Major plot developments and scenes. 1. Escalating hunt for Makdisi. Doran and his unit intensify their operations to locate Al-Makdisi, Nidal, who was thought dead. They work under pressure, moving faster, deploying more resources, and pressing intelligence channels to trace his network. The team's increased activity heightens tensions in the region. Militants and political actors alike sense a shifting power struggle. 2. Abu Samara's ultimatum to Makdisi. Abu Samara, a powerful militant leader, issues a stern ultimatum to Makdisi. He warns that Makdisi must curb his violence or face consequences, even from within his own movement. He is trying to reassert control over the chaos Makdisi is creating. This confrontation with Abu Samara places Makdisi in conflict not just with Doran's team, but with Hamas's internal politics, threatening his autonomy. 3. Shurin's interrogation and pressure. Because of Makdisi's actions and his proximity to Doran's team, Shurin is drawn under scrutiny. Her connections and possible involvement become suspect. She is taken in for questioning. Doran, knowing Shurin is vulnerable, must balance operational integrity with his emotional concern for her safety. The episode emphasizes her precarious position between both sides. 4. Conflict with Walid and political strains. Makdisi's actions spark a rift with Walid, who holds a leadership role in Hamas's military wing. Walid confronts Makdisi's rogue approach and seeks to pull him back into more controlled strategy. The internal pressure from Hamas leadership causes Makdisi to reassess or double down. He refuses to let go of his vendetta, even under threat from within his own ranks. 5. Personal stakes and tension. Doran deals with the emotional weight of returning to conflict. Shurin is caught between her past and the danger that being close to Doran brings upon her. The episode displays how operations affect not just field agents but their personal relationships. The strain is visible in looks, hesitation, and choices made under duress. The confrontation between Makdisi and Abu Samara shows that the war is as much political and ideological as it is physical. Themes and takeaways. Revenge versus order. Makdisi's quest for vengeance clashes with more pragmatic leadership who seek control and stability. Vulnerability of allies. Shuren's role highlights how collateral damage can affect delicate allegiances in this conflict. Double fronts. Doran's team fights not only militant threats but also political and internal divisions on both sides. Moral ambiguity. The episode blurs lines, leaders, fighters, and victims all make questionable choices under pressure. Recap of Fauda Season 2, Episode 3 in English with spoilers. Fauda Season 2, Episode 3, Recap. Episode title, Synopsis. According to Rotten Tomatoes, Episode 3 is described as, rebuked by Waleed, Al-Makdisi doubles down on his renegade plan to exact revenge. Doran goes rogue during an operation to offer Shuren a way out. IMDb adds that Al-Makdisi's family, Waleed, and Hamas leadership urge him to back off, but he persists, even risking a clash with Waleed. Doran's team is in turmoil due to his violent actions. Major plot beats and developments. 1. Makdisi pressured from all sides. In this episode, Al-Makdisi, Nidal, faces internal pressure. His family, Waleed, and the Hamas leadership strongly caution him against further escalation. They see his actions as reckless and destabilizing. However, Makdisi is determined. He views the warnings as weakness and resolves to continue with his vendetta, regardless of internal opposition. 2. Doran acts rogue. Doran's approach becomes more aggressive and autonomous. He undertakes an operation outside of his usual constraints to offer Shuren a chance to escape the danger surrounding her. This shows how emotionally invested he is in protecting her. His departure from protocol alarms some in his unit. There is unrest and unease over how far he will go. 3. Conflict with Waleed and leadership. The tension between Makdisi and Waleed grows. Waleed perceives Makdisi's radical path as threatening to both the movement's legitimacy and internal order. The episode foreshadows a schism in loyalties. Makdisi's disregard for the Council of Elders underscores his fanaticism and sets him up as a rogue actor rather than a disciplined militant. 4. Emotional and moral stakes increase. Shuren's situation becomes more precarious. The fact that Doran is willing to deviate from orders to protect her highlights the personal risks she faces. Doran himself is shown to be pushed to a breaking point. His personal motivations for Shuren, for vengeance, now bleed into his professional judgment. The fissures in the militant side, internal conflict, family pressure also expose how ideology, grief, and vengeance can drive people to extremity. Themes and takeaways. Radicalization and obsession. Makdisi is consumed by his revenge mission. Others see him as a liability, but he persists. Duty versus loyalty. Doran's loyalty to Shuren conflicts with his duty to protocol and team cohesion. His rogue moves test the boundaries. Internal conflict. The episode highlights that threats often come from within. Makdisi's clash with Hamas leadership demonstrates that internal discipline is as fragile as external resistance. Emotional battleground. Conflict is not only physical but emotional, loyalties, love, fear, betrayal intertwine. Recap of Fauda Season 2, Episode 4 in English. Spoilers ahead. Fauda Season 2, Episode 4, Recap and key developments. Synopsis and overview. According to Rotten Tomatoes, in this episode, Nidal's plan takes an unexpected lethal turn and backs him into a corner. Shuren reaches out to Doran, putting them both at risk. On IMDb, the summary notes, Al-Makdisi's operation doesn't go as planned, which causes a rift between him and Hamas leadership. Doran's violation of orders results in serious consequences. So this episode is pivotal. Makdisi's ambitions collide with internal limits, and Doran's actions become more volatile. Main plot beats and scenes. 1. Makdisi's operation unravels. Nidal, Al-Makdisi, executes a bold plan intended to strike at Doran's side, but things go awry. His scheme backfires in a lethal way, burying him in complications. The failure triggers backlash. Hamas leadership questions his methods, and Waleed and other figures begin to see Makdisi as a liability rather than an asset. 2. Rift with Hamas leadership and Waleed. After the plan's lethal misstep, tensions mount between Makdisi and Hamas leadership. The internal structure is shaken. Those who supported him or gave tacit approval distance themselves. Waleed, in particular, is forced to confront how far MacDC's methods threaten collective safety and the movement's legitimacy. This sets up internal conflict. 3. Doran's rule violation and fallout. Doran, already under emotional and moral strain, violates orders from his superiors, specifically Eli's order to act in a way he believes is necessary. This leads to a serious reaction from command. His insubordination deepens suspicions among his own team. Is he acting as a soldier or a man consumed by vengeance? 4. Shuren reaches out, increasing risk. Recognizing danger and isolation, Shuren reaches out to Doran. Her willingness to contact him escalates the risk for both. Her involvement becomes more pronounced. This reach strains boundaries. Are they allies, sympathizers, or each other's liability? 5. Emotional pressure and personal exposure. Throughout the episode, the emotional stakes heighten. MacDC's ambition, Doran's protectiveness, Shuren's exposure, they're all balancing on fragile lines. MacDC's error reveals vulnerabilities. He is not infallible, and the cost of his escalation is becoming obvious, even to those who once supported him. Doran's relationships with team, with Shuren, with command fray as his responses grow riskier. 6. Cliffhanger and turning tides. The episode ends with MacDC cornered, his strategic position weakened, his supporters shifting, his next move uncertain. For Doran and his team, the command structure is wary. Doran's defiance may isolate him or force a reckoning. Shuren's outreach sets up possible betrayal, reconciliation, or tragic consequences in future episodes. Themes and interpretation. Ambition versus restraint. MacDC's aggressive goals clash with the reality of political and organizational constraints. Order versus chaos. Doran's team struggles to maintain discipline as personal vendettas and emotional motivations threaten to override protocol. Risk of exposure. Shuren's involvement in Doran's rule-breaking lay bare how close the characters are to tipping beyond redemption. Internal conflict. The greatest danger sometimes comes from within, as allies question each other's methods, loyalty, and vision. Recap of Fauda Season 2, Episode 5, spoilers ahead. Fauda Season 2, Episode 5, recap and key beats. Episode title overview. On Rotten Tomatoes, the episode is summarized as, Doran scrambles to protect his family when Nidal gets too close. Shuren puts a dangerous plan in motion. Waleed learns some distressing news. On TVMaze, the listing also cites, a senior Israeli officer tries to smoke Abu Ahmad out of hiding. Ali fights suspicions of duplicity, and Boaz joins the squad on a risky ambush, though this more closely matches an earlier season listing. From these sources and context from earlier episodes, here are the major developments and narrative arcs in Episode 5. Major plot developments and scenes. 1. Threat to Doran's family. Nidal, al-MacDC, closes in closer to Doran's world, literally. He begins to threaten Doran's family, or place them in danger by proximity or infiltration. The phrase, Doran scrambles to protect his family, suggests the episode centers on the vulnerabilities of his home. This escalation forces Doran to act defensively, shifting part of the narrative from offense, hunting MacDC, to protection and safeguarding what he holds dear. 2. Shuren's dangerous plan. Shuren, increasingly a key character in this season, takes a bold and risky step. The dangerous plan in motion implies she is no longer passively caught between sides, she's choosing agency, and that plan likely carries high risk for herself and others. Her plan may involve acting behind the scenes, aiding Doran, or attempting to counter MacDC's influence. Given her proximity to both sides, her moves are especially precarious. 3. Waleed receives bad news, internal pressure. Waleed, who in Season 2 holds significant power in Hamas's military wing, is confronted with distressing revelations. This news may relate to MacDC's rise, betrayals within the organization, or leaked information that undermines his authority. This tension likely forces Waleed to recalibrate his allegiances or make tough decisions about MacDC. 4. Increased danger and tension. The sum of these strands, Doran's family being threatened, Shuren's risky plan, Waleed's uncertainties, raises the stakes. Each move is sharper, more volatile. The episode likely involves confrontational moments, close calls, and perhaps action sequences, interceptions, raids, threats to safe houses. Doran's dual role as agent and protector is more sharply tested. He must juggle offense and defense, strategy and emotion. Themes and interpretation, vulnerability and home front. This episode spotlights that even skilled operatives have vulnerable personal lives. The boundary between battlefield and home is thinner than ever. Agency and risk. Shuren's turning point, choosing to act, despite danger, underscores how characters evolve under pressure. Power and reputation. Waleed's role reflects the tension between leadership and legitimacy. How far will he tolerate Makdisi's rogue behavior before acting? Sacrifice and consequence. Doran's efforts to protect his family will come with trade-offs. Actions in the field may expose more danger to his loved ones. Recap of Fauda Season 2, Episode 6, with spoilers. Fauda Season 2, Episode 6, recap and highlights. Synopsis. According to Rotten Tomatoes, the episode synopsis is, seeing a chance to strike, Nidal regroups and leads a nighttime raid. While Waleed faces interrogation, Doran takes Shuren under his wing. Metacritic confirms that after a prior failed operation, the characters regroup and tensions rise. Key plot beats and developments. 1. Makdisi Nidal regroups and launches a night raid. After an earlier setback, Nidal, al-Makdisi, does not retreat. Instead, he reorganizes his forces and mounts a nighttime assault aimed at destabilizing Doran's team or striking a strategic target. This raid underscores his resolve. Even with internal and external pressure, he's still willing to risk action. 2. Waleed under interrogation pressure. Waleed faces serious scrutiny. His position is fragile, and leadership or opposing factions put him to the test. The interrogation or pressure suggests that his loyalty or involvement with Makdisi is under suspicion. This moment is pivotal. Waleed must navigate being a bridge between Makdisi's ambitions and Hamas leadership, under risk of exposure. 3. Doran protects and mentors Shuren. Doran takes Shuren under his wing, in this episode, indicating that he tries to shield her from danger and guide her more actively in the conflict. Their bond deepens, and Doran's protective behavior underscores the emotional stakes he has invested in her safety and survival. 4. Aftermath of previous failures. The nighttime raid is not just an offensive move, it is a response to earlier operational failures. The team is under pressure to reclaim initiative, rebuild morale, and show that they can still act. The episode likely includes scenes of planning, tension among team members, and ramifications of past losses. Themes and character dynamics, resilience and escalation. Nidal's decision to strike again reflects how adversaries often escalate rather than retreat when pressed. Trust under examination. Waleed's interrogation points to the fragile nature of trust in this conflict. Even leaders can be questioned. Mentorship and protection. Doran's role with Shuren shows his shift from pure operator to guardian, recognizing that those close to him are also in harm's way. Morality versus duty. Doran's protective impulse may conflict with mission discipline. Balancing what is right versus what is necessary is increasingly complex. Recap of Fauda Season 2, Episode 7, Episode number 2.7. Spoilers ahead. Fauda S2E7, recap and key developments. Synopsis overview. Per Rotten Tomatoes, Nidal defends his new allegiance to Samir. Captain Ayub blackmails Abu Samara into helping him lay a trap. Sagi's nerves jeopardize a mission. Per Metacritic, Doran realizes that his family is in danger, and decides to take action. Despite Waleed's intentions, al-Makdisi decides to help him. Doran and Shuren's IMDb episode listing. Waleed is suspended from Hamas and al-Makdisi sees the opportunity to try and replace him. In the meantime, Ayov takes advantage of Abu Samara's weakness and plans an intricate action in the Nablus Kasbah. So, Episode 7 is a turning point. Internal conflicts escalate, emotional stakes rise, and the balance of power shifts. Major plot beats and scenes. 1. Waleed suspended, political upheaval. Hamas leadership suspends Waleed's authority or role, citing his inability to control Makdisi's increasingly radical actions. This leaves a vacuum in leadership. Al-Makdisi Nidal seizes this as an opportunity. He attempts to position himself to replace Waleed or to expand his influence within militant ranks. 2. Nidal defends his allegiance to Samir. Nidal must publicly defend or justify his loyalty or alliance to Samir, another militant. His decisions and loyalties are being questioned, and he must show he is committed, not opportunistic. His defense is both political and personal. He needs to maintain credibility among militants while advancing his plan. 3. Captain Ayub blackmails Abu Samara, trap plans. Captain Ayub manipulates Abu Samara, a senior militant figure, using leverage or threats, forcing him to cooperate in laying a trap, likely for Doran or his team. The trap is intended to corner or expose opposing forces. The involvement of Abu Samara indicates cracks within the militant alliance. 4. Sagi's nerves threaten the mission. Sagi, one of the operative team members on Doran's side, is under psychological, emotional pressure. His nerves or doubts begin to affect his performance, putting a mission at risk. This internal fragility underlines how even the heroes are pushed to their limits by the stakes and strain of prolonged conflict. 5. Doran and family threat reaction. Doran realizes that his family is being threatened, either by proximity, exposure, or that Makdisi's escalation will bring danger to domestic life. Metacritic's summary specifically mentions this. He decides to take more direct action, presumably altering his tactics, mobilizing resources, or protecting his loved ones more aggressively. 6. Strategic shifts in alliances. Makdisi gives stronger backing to his plan now that Walid is weakened. His ambition grows bolder. Abu Samara's role becomes more pivotal because Ayub's blackmail forces him into cooperation he may not fully trust. The internal power dynamics among militants shift dramatically. New alliances, betrayals, and strategic gambits emerge. Themes and interpretation. Power vacuums and opportunity. Walid's suspension highlights how leadership vacuums are exploited by ambitious rivals. Loyalty versus ambition. Nidal must navigate the delicate balance between maintaining loyalty to Samir, to his cause while pushing forward radical plans. Fragility of operatives. The portrayal of Sagi's nerves under stress emphasizes that even the most stalwart agents can crack under pressure. Family and war's reach. Doran's awareness of danger to his domestic life reminds us that war extends beyond battlefields, into homes, relationships, and emotional realms. Shifting alliances and intrigue. The blackmail, trap setting, and shifting loyalties show that every actor is maneuvering, not just the good guys and bad guys, but those in between. Recap of Fauda Season 2, Episode 8 with spoilers. Fauda S2E8, recap and key developments. Basic episode info, synopsis. According to Rotten Tomatoes, after discovering Nidal's true loyalties, Abu Mar joins in the effort to track him down. Captain Ayub and Nair escalate their plan to break Walid. Metacritic's summary adds, Doran realizes that his family is in danger, and decides to take action. Despite Walid's intentions, Al-Makdisi decides to help him. IMDb notes, Shurin must leave the country and part from Doran. Their relationship deepens emotionally, but external pressures mount. This episode is pivotal. Loyalties are exposed, alliances shift, and emotional stakes intensify. Major plot beats and scenes. 1. Revelation of Nidal's true loyalties. A turning point. Key players realize that Nidal, Al-Makdisi, has loyalties or intentions that differ from what many believed. His hidden agenda becomes more exposed. RT synopsis. Discovery of his true loyalties. Because of this, Abu Mar, a militant figure connected to Hamas, takes serious steps. He joins the effort to hunt down or limit Nidal's influence. This is a sign that even among militants, Nidal is becoming isolated. 2. Captain Ayub and Nair escalate against Walid. On the Israeli internal front, Captain Ayub, a security military figure, and Nair, from Doran's side, accelerate their plans to undermine or break Walid, whose position and control are under threat. The pressure on Walid grows from multiple sides: his former allies, the militants, dissenters, and Israeli operations. 3. Doran senses danger to his family. Doran becomes aware that his family is now in the crosshairs. His home life is no longer safe, and the conflict that was largely external is intruding into his private sphere. Metacritic's summary specifically mentions this. Doran realizes that his family is in danger, and decides to take action. With that awareness comes urgency. Doran must make tactical choices that balance protecting loved ones with pursuing the mission. 4. Shurin's departure and emotional separation. Shurin is forced to leave the country, parting ways with Doran. Though circumstances force this, both characters realize they share a bond deeper than either had fully acknowledged. The separation is painful and underscores the risks of their growing connection. Doran and Shuren's emotional arc deepens. This separation is not just physical but symbolic of how the war intrudes into personal lives. 5. Character reflections and shifts. Even Amos, Doran's father, becomes more aware of Shuren's presence in their lives. He begins to appreciate how important her role is, especially as Doran faces mounting danger. The episode's events shift alliances and expose characters for who they truly are: those willing to act, those forced to retreat, and those caught in between. 6. Cliffhangers and tension for next episode. The episode ends with multiple threads unresolved: Nidal's agenda, Waleed's weakening power, and Doran's family's safety. With Shuren gone and Doran alert to danger, the path ahead is fraught with uncertainty, vengeance, and sacrifice. Themes and takeaways. Loyalty versus betrayal. Nidal's hidden loyalties bring distrust among militants, trust fractures in both camps. Conflict enters home. Doran's family is no longer a safe zone, war follows into domestic life. Sacrifice for love. Shuren's departure underscores how political conflict forces painful personal choices. Power shifts. Waleed's control unravels under pressure from both internal dissent and external operations. Emotional toll. The emotional weight on Doran, Shuren, and supporting characters is high. War is not just bullets and bombs, but hearts torn apart. Recap of Fauda Season 2, Episode 9 in English. Spoilers ahead. Fauda S2E9, Recap and Key Moments. Title, Synopsis. Rotten Tomatoes describes: with Doran grieving a loss, Shuren faces tough questions and the team carries out a rogue operation to get answers. Nidal sends Mar on a mission. The IMDb episode listing notes: El Makdessi's attack weighs heavily on Doran and Shuren's relationship, and she's taken back to the Shabak for further interrogation on her involvement. While Doran is grieving, Nair finds another opportunity for intel breakthrough. So in Episode 9, grief, suspicion, and covert operations collide. The episode heightens tension across both sides. Major plot beats and developments. 1. Aftermath of Makdessi's attack and Doran's grief. The fallout from Nidal, Al Makdessi's recent violence is acute. The attack has left both emotional and operational scars. Doran is shown dealing with grief, presumably over loss, could be of a team member or collateral. The burden of his emotional state affects his decisions. His grief undermines a clear mind, but he is compelled to act, knowing that hesitation will cost lives or momentum. 2. Shuren under fire. Interrogation and suspicion. Shuren finds herself under intense scrutiny. Because of her associations and proximity to key figures, doubts are cast on her loyalty or involvement. She is taken to the Shabak, Israeli Internal Security, for questioning. The interrogation is not just legal, it is deeply personal and emotional. Shuren must defend her integrity, while under pressure from Doran's unit, opposing forces, and her own internal conflicts. 3. A rogue operation by Doran's team. To get answers, about Nidal, about Shuren's involvement, about looming conspiracies, Doran's team undertakes a rogue operation, acting without full sanction. The goal is to gather critical intelligence and test lines of trust. This operation is risky. Forces are acting without full clearance, operating in gray zones. Success might provide vindication, failure could deepen divisions or expose vulnerabilities. 4. Nidal sends Mar on a mission. In parallel, Nidal al-Makdessi sends Mar, a less prominent militant or operative, on a mission. The purpose may be diversion, sabotage, or gathering leverage. This move signals that Nidal is diversifying his tactics and delegating critical tasks, widening the pressure across fronts. Mar's mission will either bolster Nidal's control or possibly backfire. Either way, it heightens tension and unpredictability. 5. Nair's intel breakthrough. Amid this chaos, Nair, a member of Doran's side, finds an opportunity for an intelligence breakthrough, something previously hidden, a weak point, or a key lead. This could be documentation, intercepted communications, or a captured piece of evidence. The breakthrough adds hope and direction to a mission clouded by grief and doubt. The episode suggests that while emotional turmoil threatens to paralyze, operational momentum must persist. Themes and character arcs. Grief and duty. Doran is caught between mourning and the imperative to act. His grief is not weakness, it's part of the burden of command, but it risks clouding judgment. Trust under siege. Shuren's interrogation highlights how fragile alliances and trust are in war. Those close to power are often targets of suspicion, loyalty and manipulation. Nidal's decision to dispatch Mar shows his expanding maneuvering. He tests loyalties, uses his followers as tools or shields. Sacrifice and risk. The rogue operation underscores that heroism often means acting without safety nets. The characters operate under constant threat. Information is power. Nayer's breakthrough represents the central truth of intelligence warfare. Information is as lethal as bullets. The one who gathers secrets often gains advantage. Recap of Fauda Season 2, Episode 10, with spoilers. Fauda Season 2, Episode 10, Recap and Key Developments. Episode title and synopsis. The Rotten Tomatoes summary says, worried that Doran is sinking into despair, the team rallies to galvanize him to action. Samir confronts Nidal, Abu Mar makes a discovery. IMDb adds, intel extracted from Waleed enables barbershop operation to proceed. Doran is consumed with grief and struggling to overcome it, until his team encourage him to act. Metacritic similarly notes, Doran realizes that his family is in danger, and decides to take action. Despite Waleed's intentions, Al-Makdisi decides to help him. Doran and Shuren's. So this episode is pivotal. Doran is at a low point, but external pressures force him to move again. The barbershop operation becomes central, and alliances or discoveries shift the balance. Major plot beats and scenes. 1. Doran consumed with grief, team encourages action. After the devastating events of previous episodes, Doran is deeply affected. The weight of loss and emotional wounds push him toward despair. His resolve falters, and his internal struggles are visible. Concerned by his state, his team steps in, trying to rally him, urging that he cannot sit idle. They remind him of the mission, of lives at risk, of their shared purpose. This push is essential to reviving his agency. 2. Waleed's intel powers the barbershop operation. Critical intelligence from Waleed empowers the barbershop operation to move forward. This intel may include location, timing, or confirmation of Makdisi's presence in the barbershop. With that, the Fauda unit gets the green light to act, to stake a strike at Nidal's hideout. The operation's planning, stakes, and logistics come into sharper focus. 3. Samir confronts Nidal. Samir, a militant associate, co-conspirator, confronts Nidal, Al-Makdisi. This confrontation likely involves questioning of loyalty, doubts, or challenging Nidal's leadership. Tensions in that relationship are exposed. Samir's confrontation may be motivated by fear, misgivings about Makdisi's direction, or self-preservation. This deepens the internal conflict among militants. 4. Abu Mar's discovery. Abu Mar, another militant figure, uncovers a critical piece of information. What he discovers may undermine Nidal, jeopardize operations, or reveal hidden betrayals. This discovery will have ripple effects on planning, trust, and control over assets or safe houses. 5. Doran reasserts himself. Pushed by his team and driven by urgency, Doran begins to act again. His mourning doesn't paralyze him completely. He steps into the operation, contributing force, leadership, or tactical decisions. The episode shows Doran balancing personal pain with professional responsibility. He must overcome internal struggle to do what the mission demands. 6. Operation readiness and tension. The barbershop operation is staged. Teams move into positions, surveillance, infiltration, or reconnaissance steps. Tension builds as the moment of action approaches. Enemy watchers, possibility of leaks, morale, timing, and risk all amplify. 7. Cliffhanger, setup for next episode. The episode likely ends with the operation about to begin, or partially in progress, leaving viewers on edge. Actions that Doran, Samir, Abu Mar, and Nidal take here will define loyalties, consequences, and who holds initiative going forward. Themes and character insights. Grief versus duty. Doran's struggle shows how personal loss can challenge a mission, but duty and team loyalty often compel rising again. Intelligence is leverage. Waleed's intel turning point underscores that power in this war often lies in information, not just firepower. Loyalty under pressure. Samir's confrontation with Nidal highlights how alliances are fragile and often tested when stakes rise. Truths and betrayals. Abu Mar's discovery suggests that hidden truths can shift power unexpectedly. Rising from darkness. Doran's arc this episode is about climbing out of despair and re-engaging with purpose. Recap of Fauda Season 2, Episode 11, with spoilers. Fauda S2E11, recap and key developments. Episode title, synopsis. Rotten Tomatoes describes this episode as an operation to bring down Nidal backs the team into a lethal corner. Abu Mar makes a heart-rending decision, and Captain Ayub learns critical intel. IMDb notes, barbershop operation doesn't go as planned. El Makdessi finds himself isolated, it's him against the world, but he insists on moving forward with his large terror attack plan. Thus, Episode 11 is about things going wrong in the climactic operation, loyalty being tested, and characters forced into difficult choices. Major plot beats and scenes. 1. The barbershop operation goes wrong. The unit's plan to take down Nidal, Al Makdessi, via the barbershop operation is executed. But complications arise. Either leaks, countermeasures, or unforeseen obstacles cause the operation to falter. The team finds itself trapped or backed into a lethal corner. Hostiles or militia forces may surround them, making extraction perilous. 2. Abu Mar's heartbreaking decision. Abu Mar, already a secondary militant character, is forced to make a deeply painful choice. That decision likely involves his loyalty, family, or betrayal, someone he cares about or responsibility he must weigh. This choice will have emotional reverberations and could affect alliances, trust, or the direction of the conflict. 3. Captain Ayub learns critical intelligence. Captain Ayub, on Doran's side, uncovers or receives vital information that changes his understanding or approach to operations. This intel may be about Nidal's plans, safe houses, betrayals, or hidden routes. This discovery may shift the balance of power, offering a glimmer of hope despite the failed operation. 4. Isolation of Makdessi, his resolve. As the plan unravels, Al Makdessi finds himself increasingly isolated. Allies may desert or hesitate, leadership may withdraw support, and he is forced to act without the backing he counted on. Yet he remains resolute. He intends to push forward with his terror attack plan regardless of the losses or obstacles. He doubles down on his ambitions. Themes and character arcs. Crisis under fire. When plans fail, characters are exposed, not only to physical danger but to moral choices under pressure. Sacrifice and consequence. Abu Mar's decision underscores that in war, some must sacrifice or betray to survive or protect what they value. Isolation and resolve. Makdessi's determination, even when isolated, demonstrates how vengeance and ideology drive characters past rational limits. Power of intelligence. The data Captain Ayub unlocks may shift the narrative. Information is often more valuable than force in these conflicts. Recap of Fauda Season 2, Episode 12, with spoilers. Fauda S2E12, recap and key developments. Episode title, synopsis. According to Rotten Tomatoes, the synopsis reads, Doran faces a fresh threat as the scope of Nidal's unfolding plan becomes clear, while the team and Abu Samara move to intervene before time runs out. The TVMA's episode guide adds, while the team scrambles to give Doran backup on his mission into the lion's den, Walid makes a decision that could change everything. Abu Ahmad leans on Walid to organize an immediate retaliatory attack, and Doran and Nurit go undercover to close in on their quarry. On Metacritic, the episode is summarized, Doran confronts El Makdessi directly. Thus, Episode 12 is the climactic season finale, the culmination of many threads, showing the full scope of Nidal's plan and the ultimate confrontation between Doran and Makdessi. Major plot beats and scenes. 1. Unfolding of Nidal's master plan. The episode reveals how extensive Nidal, Al Makdessi's plan truly is. The danger is no longer localized, his plot may have lethal, wide-reaching implications. The magnitude of the threat becomes clear to all sides. His scheme likely involves terror attacks, infiltration, or strategies intended to force broader conflict or expose vulnerabilities. His capacity is no longer underestimated. 2. Doran's direct confrontation. The title, Doran confronts El Makdessi directly, suggests that Doran moves from pursuing the plot to personally facing Nidal. The conflict becomes face-to-face, not behind the scenes. This confrontation is a turning point, personal, strategic, emotionally charged. 3. Team and Abu Samara's intervention. As Doran enters the lion's den, his support team scrambles to provide backup. They coordinate responses, block escape paths, and attempt to contain the collapse of control. Abu Samara, a militant figure who sometimes acts as a broker or power broker, plays a key role, leveraging his influence in networks to intervene in the unfolding crisis. His decisions may alter how the finale plays out. 4. Waleed's pivotal decision. Amid the chaos, Waleed makes a decisive move, one that could alter the power balance. The guide says he makes a decision that could change everything. Waleed's choice may relate to siding with or against Nidal, turning against allies, or leveraging state militant resources. This decision likely has moral, strategic, and relational weight. 5. Undercover moves. Doran and Nurit. Doran teams with Nurit, a fellow operative, to go undercover, getting as close as possible to Makdessi's operation or command center. Their infiltration may expose critical nodes in Nidal's network. Their undercover move might put them at risk, trap, betrayal, or exposure looms. 6. Climax, resolution and aftermath. The confrontation between Doran and Nidal is likely the emotional and narrative peak. There will be violence, twists, revelations, and perhaps sacrifice. Allies may be lost, betrayals may be exposed, and the final balance may shift. After the climax, the episode likely wraps up the major threads: which characters survive, who holds power, and how Doran's life is changed by the outcome. Themes and character dynamics, confrontation and accountability. This episode forces characters to face each other directly, no more shadows or deniability. Consequences of plans. Nidal's plot, once hidden, is now laid bare. The fallout shows how far ideologies and ambition will push people. Allegiance is tested. Waleed's decision and Abu Samara's interventions highlight how shifting loyalties shape outcomes. Personal versus political. Doran's personal confrontation with Nidal mirrors the political warfare at play. His identity and mission collide. Sacrifice and cost. The season ends likely with losses of lives, trust, innocence. The toll of this war is made real. If you liked it, subscribe to my YouTube channel. Recap of Fauda Season 3, Episode 1 in English with spoilers. Fauda Season 3, Episode 1, Recap and key developments. Setting and context. Time jump. The season begins about 6 months after the end of Season 2. Doran is deep undercover in the West Bank, living under an alias and working as a boxing trainer coach. The undercover assignment is placed in a Hamas stronghold neighborhood, giving Doran proximity to players he hopes to surveil or influence. Major plot beats and scenes. 1. Doran's new identity and cover role. Doran poses as an Israeli Arab boxing instructor, handling a small boxing club in Hebron. He aims to get close to Bashar Hamdan, played by Al Adaka, a young man whose cousin Fauzi, Amir Khatib, is rising within Hamas. Bashar becomes the entry point to infiltrate the networks around Fauzi. Bashar's father, Jihad Hamdan, is released from prison after 20 years. This release has symbolic and political weight, and it complicates Doran's undercover work. 2. Hamas operatives cross into the West Bank. A group of Hamas operatives from Gaza infiltrate into the West Bank, an unusual crossing that raises warning signs in Israeli intelligence and among Doran's team. Their presence is a red flag. It suggests that Hamas seeks to re-establish footprint or command structures deeper in the West Bank. Doran's mission becomes more urgent and dangerous. 3. Doran's inner conflict and stakes. Doran's undercover life is emotionally taxing. He must maintain his false identity while bearing the weight of watching Bashar be used. The moral dilemma is stark. To use someone he cares about, Bashar, as a pawn in the mission, which may betray or harm him. The emotional gravity of that choice looms large. 4. Tensions with team and leadership. Doran's team is back together. Steve, Avishai, Eli, Sagi, and others resume operations. The dynamics among them show strain, especially as Doran's decisions weigh heavily. Hila Bashan, the head of the Gaza desk, emerges as a powerful figure. She pushes Doran to use Bashar as leverage to reach Fauzi, sharpening the tension about how much risk to take. 5. Plot twist: imminent threat. The show hints that Doran's mission takes a sharp turn. Intelligence surfaces about an imminent attack. What began as surveillance escalates into urgent crisis. The attack threat forces Doran to reconsider the risk to his cover and to Bashar. His decisions must now balance secrecy and action. Key themes and character dynamics. Undercover tension and identity. Doran's balancing act between his real identity and his assumed one is a major undercurrent. Instrumentalization. Bashar becomes a bridge figure used by Doran, Israeli intelligence, to reach Fauzi, raising ethical questions. Trauma and aftermath. The emotional scars from past seasons haunt Doran. 6 months of distance have not healed wounds. Radicalization pathways. The episode begins to chart how an initially apolitical person, like Bashar, can be drawn into extremism under pressure. Moral cost of mission. The show asks whether the ends justify the means, especially when using innocence as tools. Recap of Fauda Season 3, Episode 2, English, spoilers. Fauda S3E2, recap and key developments. Episode title and synopsis. According to Rotten Tomatoes, the synopsis for Episode 2 says, "The search for Fauzi intensifies in the wake of the attack. Doran goes back undercover but faces increased suspicion and scrutiny." IMDb's episode listing mentions, Doran is determined to stop Fauzi by any means. Hila Bashan, the new head of the Gaza desk in the security service, pushes him to use Bashar to get to him. Doran is unsure whether he should risk the young boxer, but understands this as the best option. So Episode 2 deepens the undercover drama, raises moral stakes, and escalates the pressure on both sides. Major plot beats and scenes. 1. Intensified hunt for Fauzi. After the events of Episode 1, Doran and his team redouble efforts to locate Fauzi, who is becoming a central figure in Hamas's new operational changes. The intelligence network is under strain, leads are scarce, and the urgency is high. Every clue is analyzed: communications, movements of known associates, shaky informants, and Doran pushes his team to act more aggressively. 2. Doran returns undercover. Doran formally recommits to his undercover persona as the boxing instructor in Hebron. He must maintain his cover, but this time with more danger. Suspicion is growing around him. Anything he does, visiting certain neighborhoods, meeting certain people, making certain moves, can draw attention and risk exposing the facade. 3. Hila Bashan's pressure and strategic use of Bashar. Hila Bashan, the new head of the Gaza desk in Israeli intelligence security services, exerts pressure on Doran to use Bashar Hamdan, the boxer, as a conduit to get to Fauzi. She sees Bashar as the bridge into Hamas's inner circles. The conflict is moral and tactical. Doran must decide how much risk to put on Bashar, how much to manipulate someone he's growing closer to, and how much to trust his instincts versus obeying orders. 4. Doran's dilemma. Risking Bashar. Doran struggles with the moral weight of putting Bashar in harm's way. Bashar is not a hardened militant. He's a young man doing boxing, with dreams and relationships, and Doran knows that using him as a pawn comes at a cost. He debates whether the operational gain justifies the personal risk. His internal conflict is a key emotional throwline this episode. 5. Rising suspicion and scrutiny. Because Doran is operating undercover, he's under increasing scrutiny by local surveillance, informants, or parties who suspect someone is meddling in affairs they don't fully understand. Any misstep, being seen in suspicious locations, interacting with known suspects, heightens danger. The tension is palpable. The risk of exposure looms large. Themes and character dynamics. Trust and manipulation. With Bashar being drawn into the operation, the show continues interrogating when using someone you care about becomes betrayal. Moral burden of undercover work. Doran must reconcile his mission's demands with the personal cost, including the well-being of someone he's entrusted with. The fine line of exposure. Undercover work is inherently fragile. Small errors or misjudgments can unravel months of preparation. Transformation and agency. Bashar's role may shift. He is no longer just a naive boxer but becomes a node in the political and militant web. His choices, loyalties, and transformations will matter. Recap of Fauda Season 3, Episode 3, English, with spoilers. Fauda S3E3, Recap and Key Developments. Episode title, Synopsis. According to Rotten Tomatoes, the synopsis reads, Abu Muhammad gives Jihad an ultimatum, a raid turns deadly, Doran pushes to extract Bashar as the walls close in. IMDb's listing for episode number 3.3 notes, Doran is fearful for Bashar, who disappears. An operation to find the Hamas terrorists ends with bad results. Bashar, who doesn't know what to do, asks help from his father. So in episode 3, the pressure builds, loyalties are tested, and the stakes rise dramatically for Doran, Bashar, and Jihad. Major plot beats and scenes. 1. Abu Muhammad's ultimatum to Jihad. The episode opens with Abu Muhammad, a high-level Hamas commander operating from Gaza or in liaison, issuing a stark ultimatum to Jihad Hamdan, Bashar's father. The demand is for Jihad to bring Bashar, or hand him over, or face dire consequences. This places Jihad in a moral and operational squeeze: protect his son, or comply to preserve broader alliances and safety. 2. Bashar's disappearance and fear. Under the pressure of Abu Muhammad's demand, Bashar disappears, he goes off the grid, vanishing from his usual routines. Doran, who has by now become close to Bashar, is alarmed and feels a personal responsibility to locate him. Doran's undercover role becomes more precarious. His concern for Bashar is no longer professional but deeply personal. He fears for his safety, his integrity, and how the disappearance might compromise the mission. 3. A raid that ends badly. Doran's team organizes a raid on suspected Hamas or militant locations, guided by intelligence they believe is solid. But the raid goes off course. It turns deadly, resulting in casualties or unintended collateral damage. The failed operation heightens the consequences: mistrust from local populations, internal criticism from higher command, and an intensifying urgency to salvage the mission before things spiral further. 4. Doran attempts extraction. With Bashar missing and danger looming, Doran aggressively pushes to extract him, meaning to locate him swiftly and bring him back to safety or under surveillance. The walls close in, as obstructing forces mount. This push may involve covert infiltration, using contacts, or deploying riskier tactics, each move carrying higher stakes of exposure or betrayal. 5. Bashar's dilemma and turning to his father. Bashar, shaken and uncertain, reaches out for help, in particular, to his father Jihad, not because he wants to become a militant necessarily, but because he's desperate. He's caught between survival and ideology, between loyalty to his family and forces pushing him toward violence. His emotional state is fragile. The disappearance, threats around him, and the rupture of trust with Doran all contribute to internal conflict. He's forced to reassess whom he can rely on. Themes and character dynamics. Familial loyalty versus political pressure. Jihad's ultimatum forces him to choose between his role as father and his obligations or pressures from militant leadership. His love for Bashar clashes with survival logic. Undercover vulnerability. Doran's closeness to Bashar makes him vulnerable. His dual role, protector and operative, becomes increasingly dangerous as emotional lines blur. Consequences of violence. The failed raid shows that militarized actions carry high risk: loss of lives, loss of legitimacy, and loss of tactical momentum. Identity and crisis. Bashar's disappearance highlights his crisis of identity: adolescent, protege, pawn, potential radical. He's being shaped by external forces faster than he can respond. Pressure of command. Doran must balance mission integrity, human cost, and his own emotional involvement. His decisions weigh heavy not just strategically but morally. Fauda Season 3, Episode 4 English, spoilers. Fauda S3E4, Recap and Key Developments. Basic synopsis. According to Rotten Tomatoes, Episode 4's synopsis is: Jihad and Nasser act after a decision sends Bashar deeper into danger. Avahai faces questions about the raid. Hila opens up to Doran. On IMDb, the episode is described: the army chases Bashar and his father. The two make plans to get out of their difficult situation, but it tolls a heavy price. Meanwhile, Avachai deals with his mistake. So this is a tense episode where the pressure tightens around Bashar and his father, Jihad, with Doran's team trying to keep pace while dealing with internal consequences. Major plot beats and scenes. 1. Pursuit and danger for Bashar and Jihad. The episode begins with the Israeli forces army actively chasing Bashar and his father Jihad. Their escape routes are limited, and the net is closing in. Under duress, Jihad and Bashar must make difficult decisions about how far to run, where to hide, or whom to trust. The weight of danger tests their father-son bond and endurance. 2. Consequences of previous actions. The decisions made in earlier episodes, especially about intelligence, betrayals, and manipulations, come back to haunt them. The decision that sends Bashar deeper into danger, as Rotten Tomatoes notes, likely refers to a tactical or strategic move that backfires, forcing them deeper into jeopardy. That decision may be related to Jihad stepping in to protect Bashar, or a choice of route, alliance, or hiding place that compromises their safety. 3. Avahai's accountability. Meanwhile, Avahai, one of Doran's unit, is struggling with guilt or scrutiny over a past mistake, perhaps from the failed raid in the previous episode or collateral damage from operations. He faces questioning or internal conflict about whether his error jeopardized the mission or endangered others. This subplot highlights the human cost, even for operatives. 4. Hila opens up to Doran. In a more personal vein, Hila Bashan, head of the Gaza desk in Israeli intelligence, has an emotional, vulnerable moment with Doran. She may reveal more of her thoughts, doubts, motivations, or the burden she carries in managing operations. This humanizes the boss decision-maker figure and deepens her relationship with Doran. The trust between them becomes more nuanced, blurring lines between professional cooperation and emotional connection. 5. Heavy price and tension. As the episode progresses, the hardship of being hunted becomes clear. Bashar and Jihad suffer physical, psychological, and ethical tolls. They might lose allies, face betrayals, or be forced to surrender options. The episode's tone is one of inevitability. Every escape route is harder, every move more costly. 6. Climactic turn, set up for next. The climax likely sees Bashar and Jihad cornered or forced into a high-stakes gambit to survive. Meanwhile, Doran's team, Avahai's conscience, and Hila's emotional opening all converge to set up Episode 5's escalating stakes. Themes and character insights. Consequence and escalation. The choices made earlier in the season catch up. There is no clean path out once conflict is in motion. Father and son under fire. The relationship between Jihad and Bashar is central, tested by danger, loyalty, and the demands of survival. Burden of leadership and mistakes. Avahai's subplot emphasizes that behind every mission are human actors who err, and those errors carry weight. Power and vulnerability. Hila's opening to Doran shows that even those behind command walls feel doubt and emotional strain. Trapped paths. As the chase tightens, characters are forced into impossible choices, where every direction has risk. Recap of Fauda Season 3, Episode 5 in English. Spoilers ahead. Fauda S3E5, Recap and Key Developments. Episode title and synopsis. According to Rotten Tomatoes, with Doran and his team close on their heels, a desperate Bashar and Jihad follow a bold plan to elude capture. On IMDb episode listings. All security services are in pursuit of Bashar and Jihad, trying to stop a catastrophe, but Jihad manages to stay ahead of them. Reddit discussion. All security services are in pursuit of Bashar and Jihad, trying to stop a catastrophe, but Jihad manages to stay ahead of them. So Episode 5 is a tense chase episode. As Israel's forces close in, Bashar and his father Jihad are pushed to extreme measures to survive and evade capture. Major plot beats and scenes. 1. Pursuit intensifies. The Israeli security apparatus mobilizes major resources to capture Bashar and Jihad. Intelligence, field units, informants, and checkpoints are all being leveraged to cut off their escape paths. The net is tightening on them. Roads blocked, surveillance stepped up, and operational pressure mounts. There is little rest or safe zone for the father-son pair. 2. Jihad's tactical maneuvers. Recognizing how close they are to capture, Jihad uses his experience and contacts to stay one step ahead. He leads Bashar through routes, safe houses, alliances, and decoys. He orchestrates moves that confuse the pursuing forces, false leads, diversions, and leveraging terrain. His ability to anticipate is tested, and he is under extreme stress. 3. Doran's guilt and desperation. Meanwhile, Doran feels increasing guilt over how much of Bashar's plight has been caused by his undercover operation and manipulations. He pushes himself and his team harder, hoping to rescue Bashar before irreversible damage is done. But emotional weight and the consequences of past decisions hinder clarity and effectiveness. 4. No success in fixing the situation. Doran and his team attempt various strategies, covert tracking, intercepts, agent work, but each move is met with complications. The phrase, tries to fix the situation with no success, from IMDb listing, suggests that their interventions are reactive, incomplete, or failing to reach their intended goal. 5. Climactic escape. The episode builds toward a high-stakes moment where Bashar and Jihad must choose either to surrender or to take drastic risks crossing borders, hiding with armed groups, or using guerrilla tactics to remain free. Jihad's planning and intuition allow them to slip through the net again, evading capture at the last possible moment. Themes and character dynamics. Cat and mouse tactical pressure. This episode emphasizes the tension between hunter and hunted. The chase isn't just physical. Every decision, every route, every moment is psychological warfare. Parental protection and moral burden. Jihad's role is central. He is a father protecting his son, making choices that risk everything. His past as a militant and present as protector clash. Guilt and responsibility. Doran's emotional conflict deepens. He realizes that his operations have real human cost, and not just collateral, but lives he's entwined with. Survival instincts. When cornered, characters resort to primal survival tactics, deception, improvisation, sacrifice. The show highlights how under extreme pressure, morality can bend. Recap of Fauda Season 3, Episode 6, English, with spoilers. Fauda S3E6, Recap and Key Developments. Episode Info, Synopsis. According to Rotten Tomatoes, as the search for the hostages intensifies, Hila turns to an old asset, and Doran's squad prepares for one of its riskiest operations yet. From IMDb, Jihad and Bashar lead their assets to Hani el-Jabari in Gaza. This saves Bashar's life, but he realizes that he is trapped. On the Israeli side, Doran is on the verge of despair and comes up with a rescue plan that nobody wants to hear about. Major plot beats and scenes. 1. Leading assets to Hani el-Jabari, Gaza move. Jihad and Bashar guide their assets, people, intelligence sources, or allied contacts into Gaza, toward Hani el-Jabari. This move is intended to bring them to relative safety or leverage, but it also deepens their entanglement. The journey is fraught. While the move saves Bashar from immediate threat, it becomes evident that they've traded one danger for another. They are now deeper inside hostile territory, with fewer safe routes. 2. Bashar's realization. He is trapped. As they reach Gaza and take refuge with Hani el-Jabari, Bashar realizes that their supposed sanctuary is more prison than refuge. The network of Hamas operatives, local politics, and internal surveillance means escape is almost impossible. The moment underscores the tragic character arc. Bashar's ambitions and naivete collide with realities of militia control and shadow power. 3. Doran's despair and proposed plan. Back on the Israeli side, Doran is on the brink of despair. The situation is spiraling. Losses, betrayals, pressure from command, and the moral cost of what he's done weigh heavily. Desperate, he conceives a rescue plan, something bold and risky, something that many in his team or command, nobody wants to hear about. The plan likely involves infiltration into Gaza, covert strikes, or leveraging unknown assets. 4. Hila turning to old asset. Meanwhile, Hila Bashan, head of the Gaza desk, seeks help from an old asset, someone from past operations whose knowledge or access might tip the balance. This move reflects how stretched resources are and how desperation forces revisiting old alliances. The reliance on past contact suggests that current intelligence and field options are failing. This is an act of necessity, not preference. 5. Preparation for a risky operation. Doran's unit prepares for what may be one of their most dangerous missions yet. They go over logistics, infiltration routes, support contingencies, and what to do if things go wrong. The tension is high. Small mistakes could be fatal. The episode ends with the stakes very high. Bashar and Jihad in Gaza and trapped. Doran pushing to crack Gaza's defenses from outside, the unit bracing itself, and past relationships and loyalties put to the test. Themes and character dynamics, entrapment and consequence. Bashar's move into Gaza symbolizes that refuge in this world often comes with chains. The show underscores that crossing from safety to danger is easy, but the reverse path is riddled with obstacles. Desperation and leadership. Doran's despair and his plan that nobody wants to hear emphasize that leadership often involves bearing the burden of options deemed too risky by others. Reliance on hidden networks. Gila's use of old assets highlights that in covert or conflict operations, past relationships matter, and resource scarcity forces revisiting them. Moral weight and agency. Every move by these characters has cost: Bashar's, Jihad's, Doran's. The episode explores how much agency remains when the environment closes in. Recap of Fauda Season 3, Episode 7 English, with spoilers. Fauda S3E7, Recap and Key Developments. Episode title, Synopsis. According to Rotten Tomatoes, the premise is: a hostage takes matters into his own hands, making the team's mission even more urgent. Bashar learns the upsetting truth about his situation. From IMDb, the episode's summary reads: Doran, Eli, Sagi and Avichai settle in Gaza. The dangers are behind every corner, and Eli starts to show signs of his post-trauma from a tragic event he was involved in. Putting these together, Episode 7 is a tense midpoint episode. The Israeli team is now operating in Gaza, internal pressures and hidden trauma surface, and Bashar confronts painful truths. Major plot beats and scenes. 1. Team arrives in Gaza and begins operations. Doran, along with Eli, Sagi, and Avichai, relocate their base of operations into Gaza. This shift escalates danger. The team is now deep in hostile territory, under constant threat. Each street, checkpoint, alleyway is fraught. Intelligence must be precise. Any slip could expose their undercover status. 2. Eli's post-trauma surfaces. Eli begins showing signs of psychological distress. He is haunted by past missions in a tragic event that he was involved in. His mental state threatens his effectiveness and the unit's cohesion. The stress of operation in Gaza compounds Eli's internal struggle. He must balance duty with the lingering ghosts of past operations. 3. Hostage takes drastic action. The hostage subplot intensifies. A captive, pushed to the brink, takes matters into his own hands. This action forces the mission into new urgency. The team must respond immediately to prevent catastrophic fallout. The hostage's bold move disrupts plans, forces improvisation, and heightens risk for both sides. 4. Bashar learns a distressing truth. Bashar, increasingly entangled in the conflict, uncovers a harsh truth about his situation, likely related to the theft of his agency, betrayal by those he trusted, or the real stakes of the conflict he's been drawn into. This revelation shakes him emotionally and strategically, pushing him further along a path he may not fully want. 5. Morality, trust and tension. As the team navigates Gaza, trust becomes fragile. The dangers, behind every corner, comment hints that no environment is safe. Informants, betrayals, deception lurk everywhere. Doran must balance his duty with the liabilities of his decisions, especially knowing how much Bashar already suffers. Themes and character dynamics, exposure and infiltration. Operating in Gaza brings Doran and team into deeply hostile territory. Cover is thinner, danger is constant, and every action has amplified consequence. Trauma and duty. Eli's psychological breakdown highlights the emotional cost of conflict. Even elite operatives are vulnerable to past demons. Agency versus manipulation. The hostage's drastic act and Bashar's revelation underscore how powerless individuals may assert control in extreme circumstances, sometimes with unexpected consequences. Truth and betrayal. Bashar's journey becomes more tragic. Truths revealed are not just strategic, but personal, eroding trust and identity. Recap of Fauda Season 3, Episode 8 English, with spoilers. Fauda S3E8, Recap and Key Developments. Episode title and synopsis. Rotten Tomatoes gives this summary. Saddled with a new responsibility, Jihad sees a chance to change his family's circumstances. Abu Muhammad faces fallout from the hostage fiasco. The episode listing on IMDb notes: The Hamas leader decides to have Bashar and Jihad guard Yara. To pressure them, Ayav decides that Jihad's house in Daharia will be demolished. Hani realizes there are Israeli operatives in Gaza. So the episode centers on escalating pressure on Jihad and Bashar, internal maneuvering by Hamas leadership, and the exposure of Israeli infiltration. Major plot beats and scenes. 1. Guard duty over Yara and new responsibilities. The Hamas leadership assigns Bashar and Jihad to guard Yara, a hostage or important detainee. This is not just symbolic, it ties them intimately to the internal power dynamics of Hamas. This assignment gives Jihad a chance to shift his family's standing, protect Yara well, earn favor, possibly negotiate leverage or safety for his son. 2. Ayav's pressure tactics, demolishing Jihad's home. Ayav, representing Israeli security operations, uses psychological and structural pressure. He orders that Jihad's house in Daharia, his hometown or residence, be demolished as leverage. This tactic is brutal but calculated. By threatening the home, he forces decisions, fears, and reactions. It's a direct hit on Jihad's roots and safety net. 3. Abu Muhammad faces fallout from hostage fiasco. Meanwhile, Abu Muhammad must deal with internal backlash. The hostage situation, from earlier episodes, did not go cleanly. There are consequences, loss of face, questions about competence, and internal dissent. His authority is challenged, and the mistakes in the hostage operations are used against him. 4. Hani realizes Israeli operatives in Gaza. Hani, a key Hamas figure, notices evidence that Israeli operatives have infiltrated Gaza. This revelation raises alarms among Hamas and forces internal coordination to counter espionage. The awareness of infiltration shifts the balance. No one is safe, and suspicion intensifies. 5. Tension and moral costs. Jihad and Bashar are under extreme pressure. Guarding Yara ties them to Hamas's cause in a way they can't avoid. Meanwhile, losing his home fractures Jihad's morale and leverage. The threat of Israeli operatives being inside Gaza makes the battlefield both external and internal. Betrayal, surveillance, mistrust become weapons. Bashar, who is already torn, must navigate loyalty, to his father, to Hamas, to himself, amid growing danger. 6. Cliffhanger and stakes raised. The episode ends raising several stakes. The demolition order looms, Yara's protection becomes a liability, Abu Muhammad's leadership is weakened, and infiltration becomes a major internal threat. Viewers are left uncertain. Can Jihad protect his family and his soul? Will Bashar survive the pressures assigned to him? Themes and character observations. Power and sacrifice. Jihad is forced to carry responsibilities, guarding Yara, that could either redeem or destroy him. The demolition order tests how much he will sacrifice for his family. Co-optation and control. Hamas uses control of individuals, e.g. compelling guard duty, to bind them to its cause, resisting deviation or independence. Infiltration and paranoia. As Hani senses operatives in Gaza, the series underscores how espionage and betrayal are constant. In war, suspicion is as dangerous as bullets. Identity under duress. Bashar and Jihad are forced to act in roles not fully of their choosing. They become actors in a larger game, pushed by both Israeli operations and Hamas internal politics. Collateral threats. Demolishing homes, demanding guard duty over people, using power as coercion, infrastructure, tradition, relationships all become battlegrounds. Recap of Fauda Season 3, Episode 9 English, spoilers. Fauda S3E9, recap and key developments. Synopsis overview. According to Rotten Tomatoes, Hila pushes the envelope after the team's operation goes sideways, forcing Eli into a charged decision. Doran faces a dire choice. From IMDb, the episode summary says Doran poses as a would-be suicide bomber to infiltrate close to his target. So in Episode 9, tensions reach a breaking point, operations falter, leadership is tested, and Doran must make a bold, risky move. Major plot beats and scenes. 1. Operation goes sideways and Hila's pressure. A key mission initiated by Doran's team derails, plans that were supposed to be precise instead become chaotic. Hila Bashan, sensing the gravity of the failure, pushes beyond previous limits. She pressures the team to take riskier actions in order to regain momentum. Her intervention is no longer behind the scenes, it becomes front and center. 2. Eli's crucial decision under pressure. The fallout from the failed operation forces Eli, one of Doran's closest team members, into a moment of crisis. He's placed in a position where his choice will have serious consequences, for the mission, and for lives. The decision is charged, meaning it's loaded with moral, emotional, and tactical weight. His choice may save lives, or cost them. 3. Doran poses as a suicide bomber. In a daring and dangerous maneuver, Doran adopts the guise of a would-be suicide bomber to infiltrate a high-risk area and get close to his primary target. This risky disguise allows him to bypass security scrutiny and penetrate deeper into militant territory. This is one of the boldest actions he's taken so far, and puts him in extreme personal danger. 4. Doran faces a dire choice. As Doran progresses in his infiltration, he reaches a point where he must make a decision that could define his fate. His dire choice likely involves sacrificing his cover, risking exposure, or deciding between different possible targets or paths, each with trade-offs in lives, trust, or mission integrity. Themes and character insights. Risk and exposure. The disguise as a suicide bomber illustrates how far Doran is willing to go, exposing himself to maximal danger to get inside the enemy lines. Leadership under fire. Hila's push and Eli's decision reflect how leadership and subordinates are tested when plans collapse. In crisis, authority and judgment are magnified. Morality versus mission. Doran's dire choice underscores a recurring Fauda tension. When does a mission's necessity override moral risk, especially when civilians or team safety are involved? Sacrifice and consequence. The episode emphasizes that every bold move carries a cost. In a show built on brinkmanship, sometimes the price is too high. Recap of Fauda Season 3, Episode 10 with spoilers. Fauda S3E10, Recap and Key Developments. Episode title, Synopsis. Rotten Tomatoes describes the episode. Rejoined by an old ally, the team leans on Abu Muhammad while preparing for an all-out assault. Bashar discovers a betrayal and makes a move. IMDb. Episode number 3.10. The team is broken and desperate but refuse to abort the mission. They find the hiding place and get ready to raid it. Meanwhile, the news reach Israel and the families. So in episode 10, tensions climax, the team prepares for a decisive raid, dynamics shift internally, and Bashar acts on revelations. Major plot beats and scenes. 1. Team broken but resolute. The Israeli unit is emotionally strained and physically depleted after previous operations. Morale is low, resources are stretched, and the team is dispersed by losses and betrayals. Yet, despite despair and internal fissures, they refuse to call off their mission. They commit to pushing forward, recognizing that aborting now may cost even more. 2. Finding the hiding place and raid preparations. They locate the hiding spot of their targets, the fortress or safe house where the Hamas leadership, including Bashar or his allies, may be sheltered. The team orchestrates raid plans, inserts, timing, backup, exit routes, suppression of enemy fire. This is the build-up to a large, all-in assault. 3. Reunion with an old ally, support from Abu Muhammad. To bolster strength, the team seeks aid from an old ally, someone with access, intelligence, or influence in the Hamas Gaza network. This ally becomes a key support, offering logistical or informational leverage. They also lean on Abu Muhammad, a figure with deep roots and knowledge in the Hamas side, to provide inside assistance, possibly to create openings or reduce resistance. 4. Bashar's discovery and move. As the raid looms, Bashar uncovers a betrayal. Some close to him or in his midst has been working against him or revealing his location. The betrayal shakes his sense of trust and forces him to act. In response, Bashar takes a bold move, possibly trying to preempt the raid, escape, or redirect forces against his betrayer. His decision is high risk and emotionally charged. 5. News reaches Israel and families react. Word of the impending raid or current military movements leaks back to Israel. The families of team members, and those connected to the conflict, learn of impending danger. This adds emotional stakes, fear, anxiety, stakes for personal lives. Some characters may confront their loved ones, fled, or resolve to see the mission through regardless of cost. Themes and character dynamics. Desperation and resolve. The episode underscores the toll of continuous conflict, yet the characters press on. Commitment becomes a form of resistance. Betrayal and trust. Bashar's discovery brings betrayal to the forefront. In a world of spies and secrets, the smallest leak can topple safety. Allies and compromises. Relying on old allies in Abu Muhammad reflects how, in war, moral purity gives way to alliances of necessity. Collateral stakes. The knowledge that families and innocents are watching adds emotional weight to every tactical decision. Climactic turning point. Episode 10 serves as the pivot before the final acts. This raid's success or failure will shape the season's resolution. Recap of Fauda Season 3, Episode 11 with spoilers. Fauda S3E11, Recap and Key Developments. Episode title, Synopsis. According to Rotten Tomatoes, the summary is: hardened, Bashar resolves to use Doran's strategy against him. The team mourns a loss. Doran confronts Hila over her impulsive decision. On IMDb, the episode description says, Doran feels guilty and has difficulties dealing with the outcomes of the operation. Meanwhile in Gaza, the Sheikh tries to help Bashar. So in episode 11, tensions peak. Bashar becomes more hardened, the toll of past actions weighs on Doran, and confrontations between team members escalate. Major plot beats and scenes. 1. Bashar hardens and uses Doran's strategies against him. After experiencing betrayals, losses, and escalating violence, Bashar is transformed. He resolves to mirror the tactics Doran used on him, turning the tables psychologically and strategically. He is no longer the passive pawn, he becomes an active, dangerous force. This shift means that what was once Doran's influence over Bashar is now a weapon Bashar may wield against Doran. 2. Team mourns a loss. The Israeli unit suffers a casualty or setback, someone close to them is lost. The team must absorb grief while under pressure. The emotional weight of losing an ally impacts morale, judgment, and unity. This loss forces reflection. How far are they willing to push? What is the cost? 3. Doran confronts Hila over her decision. Doran, burdened with guilt and frustration, confronts Hila Bashan about a prior impulsive decision she made, one that may have endangered lives, compromised operations, or shifted the moral balance. Their confrontation likely centers on blame, responsibility, and the burden of command, who must live with consequences, and who pays for decisions made in the heat of conflict. 4. Doran's guilt and emotional struggle. Throughout the episode, Doran wrestles with the aftermath of his operational decisions. He questions whether his actions, betrayals, and manipulation of Bashar contributed to the current crisis. The guilt corrodes his confidence, making him more vulnerable to mistakes, emotional impulses, or overcorrection. 5. Sheikh's attempt to help Bashar in Gaza. In Gaza, a sheikh, a respected figure within the militant, local leadership structure, tries to intervene or assist Bashar. This can take the form of protection, mediation, or counsel. But Bashar, now hardened and suspicious, may resist or manipulate such offers, seeing them as another attempt to control or contain him. Themes and character dynamics. Role reversal and power shift. Bashar's decision to use Doran's strategy against him marks a major pivot. He is no longer a subject of manipulation but an actor of violence and retribution. Cost of strategy and command. Hila's impulsive decisions, whether authorized or not, carry consequences. Doran's confrontation with her highlights the tension between operational urgency and moral restraint. Guilt, responsibility and redemption. Doran's emotional arc in this episode shows how leaders must carry not only tactical burdens but moral ones. His guilt forces him to reassess his leadership, motives, and trust. Grief and motivation. The team's mourning shows that in war, casualty is inevitable. How one responds, by giving up, doubling down, or changing tactics, shapes the next acts. Faith and ideology. The Sheikh's attempt to influence Bashar indicates that militant structures are not just about weapons, they involve ideology, sanctity, and internal legitimacy. Bashar's resistance suggests his break from earlier identities. Recap of Fauda Season 3, Episode 12 English, spoilers ahead. Fauda S3E12, Recap and Key Events. Episode Synopsis. Rotten Tomatoes describes the episode. Eli sends the team back into the field with a new member, while Bashar's plan for a knockout punch races toward a stunning end. On IMDb, the episode title and summary note. Episode number 3.12, Bashar returns to the West Bank promising to finally knock out the Israelis. All security organizations do what they can to stop him, but the chase is difficult. Thus, episode 12 is the season finale. Bashar puts forth his final, high-stakes plan, Doran's team reengages, and the chase to stop him is full throttle. Major plot beats and scenes. Here are the main beats and turning points of episode 12. 1. Team returns to field with new member. Doran's unit is reactivated and sent back into operational mode, now reinforced with a new member to bolster their capabilities as the stakes rise. The addition signals urgency. They know that the finale demands full force, more eyes, more backup, possibly new skills or insider perspectives. 2. Bashar's knockout punch plan. Bashar's ultimate plan, his knockout punch, is in full motion. He has resolved to strike in a manner that forces Israel, Doran, and the security forces to respond to his design. This punch is not just a tactical move, but a symbolic one. He seeks not just to inflict damage but to dominate on psychological and moral levels. 3. Bashar returns to the West Bank. Bashar moves back into the West Bank, re-entering Israeli-controlled or contested territory. This is bold and dangerous, as he has to traverse hostile zones, avoid detection, and execute his plan under intense pressure. His return is framed as a direct challenge. He's daring his opponents to stop him, promising to finally knock out the Israelis. 4. Full-scale pursuit and strategic chases. Security organizations, military, intelligence, and police are mobilized across West Bank and Gaza to locate, intercept, and stop Bashar's plan. All available forces do whatever they can to stop him. The chase is difficult. Bashar uses evasive tactics, shifting locations, and possibly inside help or leverage, making the task for Doran and team extremely hazardous. 5. Climactic confrontations and resolution. The finale builds toward a confrontation. Doran's team closes in, traps tighten, and fundamental stakes are revealed: who lives, who dies, who sacrifices. Bashar's plan reaches its apex. Whether his knockout punch lands or is thwarted depends on timing, betrayal, and how much Doran can counteract. In the final moments, emotional and moral threads tie back: how far Doran has compromised, how Bashar's transformation completes, and what is left broken between them. Themes and character implications. Full circle confrontation. Bashar coming back to the West Bank mirrors how Doran brought him into conflict. The arena returns to its original ground, escalating the personal stakes. Escalation and consequence. The knockout punch plan is not just revenge, it's the culmination of everything built through the season. The consequences are high: loyalty, betrayal and identity. All the betrayals, alliances, and manipulations come to head. Bashar's identity, once naive boxer, now radical, is tested in full glare. Sacrifice and loss. The finale likely involves losses, both physical and emotional. Characters will pay the price: loss of relationships, innocence, or life. Moral reckoning. Doran, Bashar, and others must face what they've done, how they've changed, and whether there is redemption or only ruin. If you liked it, subscribe to my YouTube channel. Recap of Fauda Season 4, Episode 1 English, with spoilers. Fauda S4E1, Recap and Key Developments. Opening and Context. In the wake of Season 3, Doran Cavallio has been living in seclusion, wrestling with guilt and the fallout of his past actions. The premiere reintroduces us to a fractured world. Old alliances are broken, leadership is questioned, and threats loom larger and more complex than before. Major plot beats and scenes. 1. Robbery in Jenin and suspicious cell. The episode kicks off with a bank robbery attempt in Jenin that goes badly. This event draws the attention of Dana, the head of the Israeli security apparatus, who deduces that the cell behind the robbery is suspicious and possibly tied to larger militant networks. Dana begins to trail leads and suspects internal complicity or rogue operators within the Palestinian Authority security branch. 2. Gabby calls on Doran for Brussels mission. Gabby Ayoub, Itzik Cohen, previously a trusted team member, asks Doran to travel with him to Brussels. The stated purpose: to meet an important asset who is embedded deeply within a Hezbollah cell. Despite his reluctance and his attempt to stay distanced from fieldwork, Doran is pulled back in, his guilt and sense of responsibility too strong to ignore. 3. Revelation. Suspected militant not dead. The Metacritic summary highlights that a militant long believed dead is discovered to be alive. This revelation forces Doran to re-emerge from retirement. His return is not just tactical, it is personal. The lie of death has haunted many, and now the hidden truth becomes the spark for renewed battle. 4. Doran confronts guilt and loss. Early in the episode, Doran grapples with guilt over the death of a teammate and his own expulsion from the unit. These emotional wounds frame his hesitation and inner conflict. He must reconcile that past while stepping back into a world of danger, knowing that his decisions now may cost lives beyond himself. Themes and character arcs. Return from retirement and identity. Doran's re-emergence is symbolic. He cannot escape his past, and any attempt to retire from this life is thwarted when the stakes rise again. Guilt and redemption. His emotional burden over teammate loss and failure shapes his motivations throughout the episode, setting the stage for redemption arcs. Shadows of the past. The dead militant being alive reminds us that in Fauda, nothing is settled, secrets can resurrect conflicts thought buried. Complicity in rogue cells. The Janine robbery and the suspicious cell hint at internal splits, betrayals, and factions operating outside official control. Globalization of conflict. The move to Brussels and embedding in Hezbollah territory expands the playing field beyond Israel-Palestine, showing how transnational militancy is part of the emerging threat. Recap of Fauda Season 4 Episode 2 in English. Fauda, Season 4, Episode 2, The Price of the Past. The second episode of Fauda Season 4 picks up immediately after the explosive events that close the premiere. Doran's world, once again, teeters between vengeance, guilt, and the impossible demands of duty. His actions in the previous episode, driven more by emotion than strategy, have already begun to ripple through both the Israeli and Palestinian sides, setting the stage for a darker, more personal war. Opening scene, the fallout in Jenin. The episode opens in Jenin, a city that has become a pressure cooker of rage and rebellion. Smoke lingers in the air after the gunfire from Doran's unit's failed operation. Local leaders are furious, claiming that the Israelis violated a fragile truce by storming through the refugee camp. In the chaos, Omar Tawal, the charismatic and calculating operative introduced in Episode 1, begins to take center stage. He is not just another militant, he's educated, ideologically sharp, and has connections to a wider network stretching into Lebanon and beyond. The death of his cousin, caused indirectly by Doran's actions, becomes the spark that fuels his transformation from a local agitator into a major player in the coming conflict. Doran and the unit under pressure. Back in Israel, Doran's elite Mistarvam team faces the consequences of their failed mission. The higher-ups are furious. Captain Dana, who now oversees the team, warns Doran that his reckless approach has put every agent in jeopardy. She tells him bluntly, "You are not a lone wolf anymore." Doran, however, is haunted. His nightmares replay the ambush. He replays the moment his instincts screamed that something was off, but he pushed forward anyway. The guilt gnaws at him. Even though he saved lives, he feels responsible for every death that occurred on both sides. The tension in the unit thickens. Sagi accuses Doran of ignoring protocol. Eli tries to mediate, reminding everyone that Doran has saved them countless times. But even Eli is starting to lose patience. He can see Doran's trauma clouding his judgment. The return of Maya and Omar's shadow. In parallel, we follow Maya Benyamin, an Arab-Israeli police officer and intelligence asset. She's caught between two worlds, her allegiance to Israel and her blood ties to Omar, her cousin, who is slowly being pulled into a militant network. Through a quiet conversation with her husband, we learn how deeply conflicted she feels. Her husband, Shir, wants to leave the intelligence work behind, to live a normal life. But Maya knows it's impossible. Her family history and her brother's loyalty to Israel make her a target in her own community. When Maya learns that Omar has resurfaced in Jenin, her heart drops. She warns her handler that Omar is more dangerous than anyone realizes. He's not motivated by chaos or money but by purpose. The handler dismisses her concerns. It's a mistake that will cost lives later. New threats, Hezbollah's involvement. The episode expands the battlefield beyond Israel and the West Bank. In a chilling interlude, the camera shifts to Lebanon, where Omar's recent activities have caught the attention of Hezbollah operatives. One of them, a seasoned strategist named Abu Fadi, sees potential in Omar. He believes the chaos in Jenin can serve as the perfect front for a larger operation. In a dimly lit Beirut safe house, Omar is contacted through encrypted channels. The offer is clear: resources, weapons, and protection in exchange for one thing: revenge against Israel. Omar accepts, but his eyes reveal hesitation. Revenge isn't his goal yet, it's justice. But as he falls deeper into this network, that line begins to blur. A trap in the making. Meanwhile, Doran and the team regroup. Intelligence reports suggest a possible high-value meeting in the Jenin area involving Omar and a visiting Hezbollah courier. Dana authorizes a covert surveillance mission, not a raid. Doran agrees but secretly begins preparing for an extraction, convinced the meeting will turn violent. During the recon, Sagi and Nurit set up a remote drone feed, watching the compound. The tension builds as the camera zooms in on the faces of armed men entering the meeting site. Suddenly, one of them looks directly into the drone lens, a chilling sign they've been made. Doran's instincts kick in. He orders an immediate pullback, but a hidden IED detonates near the observation point, wounding Sagi. Chaos erupts. Doran runs toward the blast despite orders, dragging Sagi to cover as bullets rain down. They barely escape, rescued by Eli and Nurit in a speeding armored vehicle. The operation fails again, but this time, Dana's fury is replaced with fear. She realizes Omar is not reacting to Israel's moves, he's predicting them. Someone on the inside may be leaking intelligence. The personal and the political collide. Later that night, Doran visits Sagi in the hospital. The team is shaken. Sagi, heavily bandaged, tells Doran that maybe it's time to stop chasing ghosts. Doran doesn't respond. He knows Sagi is right, but he can't let go. His face hardens as he vows to find Omar no matter what it takes. Meanwhile, Omar watches the explosion's aftermath on the news from his hideout. He tells his second-in-command, "They think they're hunting me, but I'm already inside their walls." His confidence grows. At the same time, Maya visits her parents in an Arab town near Haifa. The tension is palpable. Her father refuses to speak Hebrew in her presence, and her mother warns her not to get involved in Omar's mess. But Maya's conscience won't allow her to stay out of it. She calls her Israeli contact, offering to help locate Omar through her family network. The handler accepts, without telling Dana or Doran. Another dangerous secret begins. Doran's breaking point. The final act of the episode centers on Doran alone in his apartment. The weight of the failed operations, his guilt over the civilian casualties, and his family's growing distance consume him. He drinks heavily and reviews drone footage frame by frame, trying to find a clue he missed. He suddenly notices something: a man standing just outside the camera's edge during the ambush. The posture, the stance, the timing, it matches Omar. Doran realizes Omar was not just nearby, he orchestrated the entire setup. The revelation reignites his obsession. He drives in the middle of the night to confront Dana, demanding another mission. She refuses, saying the team needs rest and authorization. Doran storms out, muttering, "Authorization won't save us when he comes for us first." Closing sequence, the circle tightens. The episode closes with a cross-cut sequence. Omar in Jenin, looking over new weapons shipments provided by Hezbollah, promising his men that the next strike will burn their illusion of control. Doran alone in the shooting range, emptying clip after clip into a target until the paper burns. Maya, on the phone with her secret contact, saying quietly, "Tell them Omar is moving." But don't tell Doran. The screen fades to black as ominous music swells, a haunting mix of Middle Eastern strings and heartbeat-like percussion, signaling that Fauda Season 4's web of loyalty, betrayal, and vengeance has only begun to tighten. Recap of Fauda Season 4, Episode 3 English, spoilers ahead. Fauda S4E3, recap and key events. Episode synopsis. According to Rotten Tomatoes, the central events are: greater than, the squad presses forward in the search for Gabby, leading to a high-stakes operation in a crowded apartment block. Nurit confesses a secret to Doran. IMDb episode listing also states, greater than, Doran and the team find Ayoub's location in Brussels. Meanwhile, Maya is investigated by the Shabak about her ties to her brother. Her husband Amos suspects she's hiding something. So episode 3 continues the chase for Gabby, starts to unravel hidden loyalties, and puts pressure on Maya's identity. Major plot beats and developments. 1. Finding Ayoub, locating Gabby's trail. The Israeli team advances intelligence that leads them to Ayoub's location in Brussels. This is a critical lead. They believe Ayoub is connected to Gabby's disappearance or holds information about his whereabouts. Their operations move from broader surveillance to intervention. They must act, infiltrate, and confirm what they've found. 2. High-stakes operation in dense urban locale. Armed with this intelligence, the squad executes a tactical operation inside a crowded apartment building or block. This urban environment increases risk. Bystanders, narrow hallways, multiple exits, ambush points. The tension is high. A misstep could endanger civilians, expose operatives, or allow the targets to flee. 3. Nurit's confession. Meanwhile, Nurit, a longtime operative in the team, confesses a secret to Doran. This moment is personal, emotional, and carries potential consequences for trust within the unit. The nature of the secret is not fully public in summaries, but it suggests internal strain, hidden motives, or suppressed guilt. 4. Maya under investigation, spousal suspicion. Maya, Omar's sister, comes under scrutiny from the Shabak, Israeli internal security. They dig into her past, her ties to her brother Omar, and possibly her own loyalties. Her husband, Amos, begins to suspect Maya is hiding something. Their relationship is strained by suspicion and secrecy. Themes and character implications, trust and betrayal. Nurit's confession heightens the theme that even within the team, secrets lurk, and loyalty is fragile under pressure. Identity and duality. Maya's dual position, as law enforcement officer and sister to Omar, puts her in a precarious spot. Her investigation shows how identities collide in conflict zones. Urban tactic and risk. The operation in the apartment block illustrates the dangers of urban warfare. Civilians are mixed in, cover is thin, and error is costly. Momentum in the chase. The findings in Brussels mark a turning point. This is no longer just pursuit, it becomes a race to intercept before the trail cools or before Gabby is moved again. When the dust settles, the real violence is not in the explosion, it's in the secrets that change hands afterwards. Spoilers for Fauda. Season 4, Episode 4 ahead. The dust from the raid still hangs in the air like a held breath. Streets hum with the small, brutal business of recovery while the team, and the state machinery that backs them, count the cost. What was supposed to be decisive has become a ripple of consequences. Questions at headquarters, whispers of error, faces that won't meet each other in the briefing room. Otto turns those ripples into a weapon. What he took from Ayoub is not just names or routes, it's a map of trust. He uses it with cold, precise cruelty, striking inside the places the team thought secure. Each attack feels personal because it started inside their house. The enemy didn't break a wall, they read a ledger. Doran returns like a man carrying an unlit fuse. He refuses to name the worst, as if naming it would make it true. That denial is not naivete so much as a fragile armor. He believes that hope can be tactical. But hope alone doesn't hold back the tide, it only keeps a man standing long enough to choose again. Maya's phone becomes a slow drumbeat of dread. Anonymous messages creep into her life, domestic and invasive, blurring the line between family and suspicion. Every ping tightens the knot of loyalty she wears around her neck. Where does blood end and duty begin? And Dana, pragmatic, relentless, leans on a new, sweating source. She knows sources break, she knows secrets rot unless someone tends to them. Her pressure is clinical urgency, the leader's calculus when the margin for error narrows to zero. Themes that echo after the credits. Information is ammunition. Knowledge gathered for protection becomes the blueprint for attack. Denial is survival. Doran's refusal is equal parts courage and danger. Isolation of the watched. Maya's messages turn intimate space into hostile terrain. Fragility of human intel. Dana's hunt shows how the whole machine depends on one small, mortal hinge. In the wake of the strike, the country demands an answer. Shin Bet sharpens its knives, Raphael offers a dangerous kind of salvation, and Doran stands between what must be done and what he can live with. When revenge becomes policy, the real battle is keeping what's left of your humanity. Spoilers ahead. Full spoilers for Fauda Season 4, Episode 5. The episode opens not with an explosion but with the aftertaste of one. Quiet rooms, tired faces, a nation that's suddenly holding its breath. The raid's echoes ricochet through concrete corridors and glass offices. Shin Bet's halls that once hummed with cold procedure now crackle with an anger that smells like urgency and a need for revenge. This is not rhetorical fury, it is a machine revving, steel grinding toward retribution. Doran walks into that friction like a man who has learned to carry heat. He is the human center in a government instrument that prefers binaries, success and failure, guilt and absolution, but Doran lives in the gray seam between. Shin Bet's mobilization turns the seam into a pressure cooker. Targets must be found, answers must be given, and someone must take responsibility. The agency's appetite for retaliation is not just strategic, it's moral theater. They want the ledger balanced, the narrative closed. For Doran, every ordered retaliation is also a ledger of a different kind. Names, faces, the weight of choices he's already made. Enter Raphael. He is not a storm but a steady tide that changes coast slowly and inexorably. Raphael pitches a mission, not framed in abstract language but in the currency Doran knows best. Chances to prevent more blood, to get ahead of an enemy that has proven how dangerous insider knowledge can be. The mission Raphael offers is raw with moral consequence. It asks Doran to cross lines that used to be smudged with hesitation. It asks him to trade a piece of himself for operational clarity. Raphael's words are clinical, persuasive, and quietly ruthless. There is a cost, and someone must pay it. Sagi's arc in this episode acts as the human thermometer. He receives unexpected news, a private bolt from a public conflict, and it's not just the content of the news that wounds him, it's the timing. In the small hours, on the drive, or in the cramped privacy of a dorm, Sagi's reaction betrays the larger truth. Men trained to be instruments of the state carry private debris that sometimes explodes at the worst possible moment. His shock softens the team's edges for a second, exposes vulnerabilities beneath the tactical swagger. We watch loyalty shift, not because anyone declared war on the unit, but because life, messy and indifferent, intrudes where plans were supposed to be ironclad. The unit's cohesion strains under three simultaneous forces: the external roar of Shin Bet demanding results, Raphael's seductive but dangerous new path, and the internal tremor of Sagi's personal crisis. Friends who have moved like a single organism through past seasons find themselves stepping around each other, not from malice but from fatigue, doubt, and the quiet calculus of survival. Trust, once an asset taken for granted, becomes negotiable. What the episode does best is not in its action beats but in the small, human decisions that reveal character. Doran's pauses, the way he lingers over a photograph, the way he answers a question with a question, tell us more than handguns or raids. Raphael's pitch is a study in compromise. He doesn't coerce so much as present inevitability. Sagi's face, emptied of its usual bravado, asks the viewer to remember that operatives are not archetypes but men who love, fear, and forget to forgive themselves. Underlining it all is a theme that has threaded Fauda from its first chapter, the cost of retribution. Shin Bet's hunger for retaliation is understandable, it is also contagious. Quick retaliation calms voters and bureaucrats, but it carries an intangible ledger. Grief begets grief, and decisions made in hot rooms reverberate in cold homes. Raphael's mission promises results, but it also threatens to sever the soft places left to Doran, places where pity, memory, and restraint live. And yet, in this pressure, the episode finds fragile moments of beauty. A shared cigarette between team members becomes a fragile ritual of solidarity. A confidential whisper carries the weight of years. A lone hand on a shoulder becomes a promise. We will go through this together, even if together means mourning side by side. The episode refuses to glamorize violence, instead it commits to showing its arithmetic: losses counted in human names, gains tallied in empty chairs. The episode closes on a tone that is not triumphal but resolute. Shin Bet will act, Raphael's mission will proceed, whether Doran signs or not. Sagi will carry his news like a stone that will change the way he walks. The team is still a team, but now it carries new fissures that will shape choices in episodes to come. You leave this chapter less certain that any victory will be clean. You leave believing this: there will always be someone who pays, and sometimes that someone is the part of you that thought you were invincible. In the aftermath of one brave gamble, trust begins to crack. A man's unauthorized plan forces a unit to choose between speed and discipline. An enemy builds the tools to change the battlefield, not just a neighborhood, but an entire horizon. Doran and Maya cross a border that alters them. The team is left to count the cost. When the fight grows bigger, the smallest decisions become the heaviest. This is Fauda at a tipping point. Spoilers for Fauda, Season 4, Episode 6 ahead. Recap: the storyteller's cut: long, human, and quietly devastating. The episode opens on small, ordinary things that carry too much meaning now. An unfinished cup of coffee cooling on a windowsill, a list of orders half crossed out, a message left unread on a phone. Those little details are the leftover currency of an earlier choice, a single reckless spark that has begun to burn through everything around it. This chapter of the story isn't about spectacle, it's about consequence. It's about how a single decision, made in heat and urgency, unthreads the fabric that keeps a group together. Sagi makes that choice. He acts without permission, driven by urgency, by a hunger to strike back, by a conviction that waiting will cost lives. He sets a trap to lure Adil out, to force the enemy into daylight. It's bold, it's brave, it's unauthorized. The moment the plan is set in motion, the unit feels it. A glass shield fractures. Trust, the invisible armor every team depends on, starts to crack. People begin to squint at each other across the table, measuring loyalty like evidence. Was Sagi's act heroism or hubris? The question spreads like a stain. While the team argues with itself, Adil stops playing small. He's no longer content with hit-and-run tactics. With help from Lebanese experts, he begins to assemble something far more dangerous: missile infrastructure. This is escalation, not theater. What once could be contained on a street or in a valley now threatens a wider horizon. The stakes shift. The battles are no longer local skirmishes but moves that can redraw lives and cities. The threat is strategic, long-term, and indifferent to the rules that men cling to in operations rooms. Into that widening danger walk Doran and Maya, across a line that is both physical and existential. They cross the border into Lebanon, toward Omar's village, and every mile they travel bends the story. This journey is part pursuit, part pilgrimage. In Lebanon, the map is layered with memory, old loyalties, ancient grievances, and faces who have known each other for generations. The terrain tests them in ways checkpoints never could. Doran, weathered and steady, is forced to measure what he will trade to stop a growing menace. Maya, whose allegiances are braided with family and duty, finds herself negotiating a tangle of loyalties that pulls at her in unexpected ways. Their crossing isn't a plot device, it's a mirror that shows how far people will go and how far they will change on the way. Back at the base, the unit unravels in quiet ways. The fallout of Sagi's unilateral move is not always loud. It seeps into briefings, lingers in pauses, and alters how people read a room. Someone avoids another's gaze. Someone else tightens their voice. The trust that took years to build is whittled by a single choice and the suspicion it breeds. Teams survive explosions, they die under the slow corrosion of doubt. The episode makes this painfully clear: cohesion is not a given. It is fragile and easily spent. The episode's power comes less from gunfire and more from these small human beats. Sagi staring at an empty chair tells more than a firefight. Doran and Maya's quiet talk in the back of a rusted car reveals more than a tactical plan. A dropped cigarette, a map folded and refolded, a hand that lingers on a shoulder for a second too long, these are the moments that register the cost. The writers place us inside the moral arithmetic. Quick action can save lives, but unilateral action can destroy trust. Escalation can deter enemies, but it also creates enemies on a wider scale. The missile program changes the terms of the fight. It turns hostile intent into potentially catastrophic capability. The question becomes not just whether the unit can stop it, but what the unit will become in the attempt. Will it remain human, or will it sacrifice pieces of itself for the sake of survival? And yet the episode does not surrender to despair. In the small rituals, a shared cigarette, a joke that lands despite the tension, a look that says, "I've got you," there is stubborn tenderness. The characters are not cartoon heroes, they are people who laugh when they can and grieve in private when they must. That humanity makes every tactical choice heavier. It also makes their courage meaningful. They are not just instruments, they are people paying for choices in the quiet places no one sees. By the closing moments the picture is no longer neat. Adel's program continues to loom. The unit is fractured but not finished. Doran and Maya have crossed territory that will change them. Sagi must live with the result of his gamble, and everyone else must live with the knowledge that one man's need to act can alter the future of the whole team. The episode ends not on a triumphant note but on an accounting of debts, moral debts, emotional debts, strategic debts. The ledger is long, and the bill will come due. Themes and why this episode matters. Trust is fragile armor. One unauthorized act exposes how quickly cohesion can disintegrate when individuals break protocol. Escalation from guerrilla to strategic threat. Building missile infrastructure with outside help transforms local conflict into regional danger. Borders is emotional geography. Crossing into Lebanon is more than movement on a map, it's an entrance into histories and loyalties that shift who the characters are. Moral cost of speed. Immediate action may save people now but can erode the team's long-term survival and soul. Humanity amid duty. Small moments of tenderness are what make the stakes feel real and painful. Small, vivid beats that cut the deepest. Sagi staring at an empty commander's chair, the visible cost of a hidden choice. Doran and Maya, in a quiet car, admitting that some outcomes can't be fixed but must be borne. A map full of red pins that stops being a schematic and becomes a ledger of people. A cigarette passed from one hand to another, a vow of solidarity that is both fragile and defiant. Poetic closing, cinematic beat. They went across a line to chase a person and returned carrying the weight of what choices had made of them. Borders in this story are never just lines on a map, they are seams in people's lives. When those seams are pulled, the shape of everyone inside them changes forever. Fauda, Season 4, Episode 7. Cinematic, inspiring recap, spoilers ahead. When a secret lights a room, plans unravel and people reveal themselves. Tonight, Doran and Maya improvise on the run. Omar must choose what he'll protect, and the price of bringing people home becomes painfully clear. Fauda asks, when survival demands a choice, who do you have to become? Cinematic, inspiring recap, spoilers ahead. When a secret becomes a beacon, everything changes. Plans fold, allies become mirrors, and a single leak turns maps into traps. Tonight, Doran and Maya improvise on the run. Omar faces a choice that will define him, and a prisoner exchange becomes the hardest bargain of all. This is Fauda at its most human, when survival asks who we are, and the answer costs more than we imagine. The whisper that becomes war. The worst disasters begin quiet. A secret slips, a route becomes compromised, certainty turns to doubt. A leak is not only intelligence lost, it is trust eroded. That whisper remaps the field and makes every step a question. Act 1, improvisation is survival. Doran and Maya stop running plans and start making decisions by instinct. Cars are left to idle. Paths meant for animals become cover, decoys and half-truths by minutes that feel like lifetimes. These improvisations do more than save them, they show who they are. Doran's calm is earned, Maya's choices are moral as well as tactical. In the pressure of the moment, trust becomes currency, spent freely and sacredly. Act 2, Omar's impossible choice. Omar stands at a private crossroads. This is not strategy but identity. Protect family or hold to a cause that may consume those you love. His dilemma reframes the chase as an inner battle. War asks for clear answers and returns only impossible ones. Omar's decision is less spectacle and more sorrow. It will change how he walks, speaks, and sleeps. Act 3, the ledger of consequences. Beyond the field, bureaucracy and bargaining click into motion. Moreno traces steps. Doran's dealings with Shurin blur lines between leverage and humanity. The prisoner exchange becomes arithmetic made of live flesh, concessions, bargains, and moral wear. Every bargain Doran strikes chips away at pieces of himself, dignity, ease, the right to sleep without ghosts. Small human beats. A cigarette passed in silence. A folded scrap of paper clutched like a talisman. A child's drawing in a safe house that makes a man remember what victory once looked like. Omar pausing, choosing how to say no without burning a bridge. These are the moments that turn tactics into tragedy and courage into heartbreak. Adaptability costs who we think we are. Trust is a strategic asset, leaks are social weapons. Loyalty is a spectrum that can break a man. War's victories are measured by what we surrender. Quiet courage. By episode's end there's no clean triumph, only balance is made for a moment. The heroes return altered, debts registered in their bodies and choices. The uplift is small. Admiration for those who improvise courage in impossible times, and a sober ache for what those choices cost. True bravery here is mundane and relentless, the steady work of choosing who you will be when every map is burned. Fauda, Season 4, Episode 8. Cinematic, inspiring recap, spoilers ahead. When a single tip lights a quiet room, everything changes. Tonight, a garage in Janine becomes the hinge of a hunt. Maya moves from contact to companion, Doran follows where orders forbid, and the line between duty and human compassion blurs. Fauda asks, how do you fight a war without losing the people you were fighting to protect? A single tip becomes the hinge of a hunt. Dana's quiet clue points Eli's team to a nondescript garage in Janine, ordinary, oily, overlooked, and the ordinary suddenly snaps into significance. What looks like a mechanic's back room becomes a map of a network. Cars, toolboxes, licenses, the small logistics that make violence move. The raid is methodical and tense, every photographed detail is a thread to pull later. Maya finds Aisha, not as closure but as complication. Their meeting isn't an endpoint, it opens a new corridor of choices. Aisha brings memory, a face, a lead, and the reminder that the people behind intelligence are people first. Maya must keep both roles at once, the operative who needs facts, and the woman who remembers the lives those facts represent. When Maya meets Omar's wife and chooses to go with her, the episode shifts from tactics to intimacy. This is proximity as strategy. Going into a family's space buys access a satellite never could. It's risky, exposing, humane. In that choice Maya rejects distance for presence, and presence both endangers and enlightens. Doran disobeys Raphael and follows them. His choice is not simple insubordination, it's a wager on being where the truth lives. He finds intelligence, yes, but also faces the human cost of getting close. The encounter forces Doran to reconcile command room logic with the messy reality inside living rooms and kitchens. Disobedience here becomes moral calculus. Being present may save people in ways orders cannot predict. Small beats anchor the drama. A grease-streaked wrench that tells a mechanic's schedule, a scar on Aisha's wrist that becomes testimony, a folded scarf wrapped like armor, Doran pausing at a threshold before stepping into consequence. These moments turn procedure into poetry. Autonomy versus obedience, the human architecture of intelligence, risk is a moral currency, and how personal ties complicate strategy. Emotional throwline. Strategy and family blur until they're indistinguishable. The garage yields clues but not certainty. Maya's contact deepens the quest. Doran's presence uncovers truths orders might miss. Victory here is a ledger of choices, each stamped with cost. A lead is a small light in a dark room, useful, blinding if you stare too long. Sometimes you walk toward it, sometimes you shade your eyes and step around. Courage in this world is the quiet, ongoing work of entering other people's houses and listening. Fauda, Season 4, Episode 9, Spoilers. Title: The Edge of Trust. When a plan begins to shake, truth becomes a weapon, and a wound. Episode 9 is where faith, doubt, and desperation collide. Everyone wants to bring Ayoub home, but no one knows who's telling the truth anymore. The weight of a secret. The episode opens in silence. Doran's eyes on Omar say more than his words ever could. The room feels like a pressure cooker, trust is the first casualty. Doran pushes, pleads, provokes. Omar's answers come slow, careful, measured like a man who knows every word could decide who lives and who doesn't. But doubt leaks in like smoke. Doran's instincts, forged by loss and lies, whisper that something is off. Omar could be the key, or the detonator. Raphael's wall of caution. Raphael, watching from a distance, refuses to gamble, lives on half-truths. He wants evidence, verification, certainty. But certainty is a luxury war doesn't give. His skepticism becomes another kind of risk, hesitation that could cost Aoub his life. Between Doran's urgency and Raphael's restraint lies the moral battlefield of this episode. Act too fast, and you burn. Wait too long, and you lose everything. Hajj Ali's shadow plan. While the Israelis debate, Hajj Ali moves in silence. Trucks are loaded, routes memorized, and bribes whispered through border checkpoints. Every detail in his smuggling plan is a heartbeat in a fragile body of hope. One mistake, one loose word, and Aoub disappears forever. Hajj Ali's mission feels less like logistics and more like faith, faith that somewhere in the chaos, someone still keeps their promises. Eli's choice. Eli steps forward when no one else will. His voice doesn't rise, but its steadiness cuts through the tension. We're going in. It's not bravado, it's resignation, the quiet courage of someone who knows what this mission could cost. He's not chasing glory, he's chasing redemption. This decision shifts the tone from waiting to movement, from talk to fire. The team's unity is their strength, but also their burden, each man carrying ghosts from missions that never ended cleanly. The revelation, and then comes the turn. A truth surfaces, a shocking revelation that flips loyalties and burns old maps. It's the kind of truth that doesn't free anyone, it chains them tighter to what they can't escape. The mission to rescue Aoub isn't what it seemed. Maybe it never was. Maybe it's all part of someone else's design. Doran's realization isn't loud, it's heavy, a silent quake that redefines everything. What it means to believe. By the end, no one stands where they began. Doran has questions no victory could answer. Omar walks away with eyes that have seen too much. Eli prepares his team for a mission that may not bring anyone home. This episode isn't about tactics, it's about faith under fire. When truth fractures and trust turns liquid, only belief keeps people moving. Not belief in politics or promises, but in each other. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is move forward with a map you no longer trust, because standing still means losing more than your life. Fauda, Season 4, Episode 10, Spoilers. Title: The Cost of Coming Home. When everything burns, truth shows its real shape. Episode 10 is the season's breaking point, a symphony of chaos, courage, and consequence. Every second is a fuse. Every choice, a scar. The ambush that feels like fate. The team crouches in the stillness of the highway, the air so tense it hums. Engines idle, eyes scan the horizon. This is not just another mission, it's a desperate gamble against time itself. Doran leads with the steadiness of a man who's lost too much to fear losing again. Every breath counts. The convoy approaches, headlights carving through the dark. The ambush unfolds like clockwork, but in Fauda, no clock ever runs smooth. Shots echo, smoke curls, and what begins as a tactical maneuver turns into something primal, the fight to bring one man home and keep the soul of the team intact. Omar's ghost and the fragile truth. The intelligence that drives the mission, the coordinates, the routes, all came from Omar. But Omar is gone now, leaving behind intel that feels like a riddle and a legacy that cuts both ways. His truth still guides them, even from the grave. Trusting it feels like faith in something you can't prove. Every radio call, every detour, is haunted by his absence. His choices ripple through the episode like aftershocks of a man who couldn't save himself but might just save others. Eli's last mission. Eli's voiceover calms is calm, but beneath it runs fatigue, the kind that seeps into bone. He's been to this edge too many times. As the operation unfolds, you can see his resolve harden. This will be his final run. Not out of defeat, but because he finally understands the cost. Retirement isn't surrender, it's survival, a way to stop paying the price of endless wars that no longer end. Maya's mourning, Doran's quiet fire. Back home, Maya mourns Omar. The grief isn't loud, it's heavy, slow, almost sacred. She folds his memory like a flag, a reminder that loyalty and love can live on opposite sides of the same border. Doran, meanwhile, tends to Aoub, a man rescued but broken. In those moments, Doran's silence says what words can't. Sometimes victory is just getting someone out alive, even if neither of you really make it home. The sky burns, and then, Janine. Otto finishes his grim work. Missiles roar skyward, streaks of light cutting across the night. While Doran's team fights to save one man, another war is already beginning. The rescue is personal, the rockets are political. Together, they remind us, every victory in Fauda is temporary, every peace fragile. What it all meant. Episode 10 isn't a finale, it's a reckoning. It asks whether saving one life can ever balance the weight of all that's lost along the way. Whether trust is bravery or blindness. Eli walks toward quiet. Maya walks through grief. Doran stands in the smoke, knowing that peace isn't a place, it's a pause between storms. In the end, they brought Gabby home. But home is just another battlefield, only this one fights you from the inside. Fauda, Season 4, Episode 11, spoilers ahead. Title: The Weight of What's Left Behind. The guns have fallen silent, but the echoes are louder than ever. Episode 11 is not about action, it's about aftermath. The kind of silence that follows chaos, when everyone counts what's been lost and wonders if anything was truly won. Mourning Omar. Maya and her family sit in the heavy quiet of grief. The house feels smaller, as if walls themselves have absorbed sorrow. Omar's death isn't just the loss of a brother, it's the collapse of an idea, a bridge that tried to connect two impossible worlds. Maya's mourning is more than tears, it's confrontation. She faces the pieces of the man she loved and the choices that tore him apart. Her silence says what no eulogy can. War doesn't just kill people, it rewrites who they were. Doran and Aoub, healing what can't be healed. Doran takes care of Aoub, the man he fought so hard to save. But rescue doesn't end when the hostage is freed, it begins. Aoub's body is out of the cage, but his mind is still there, replaying captivity in invisible loops. Doran watches him, powerless to fix what war does to a man's soul. Still, he stays, because that's what brothers in battle do. They hold each other up when nothing else can. Eli's goodbye. Eli decides to retire, not out of weakness, but wisdom. Years of leading, losing, and surviving have carved too many ghosts into him. His decision feels like a quiet rebellion, a refusal to let the mission be the only thing that defines him. For once, he chooses life over duty. It's one of the show's most human moments, realizing that stepping back can be an act of courage, too. Adel's fire in Janine. While others grieve, Adel finishes his work in Janine. The missile launches, cutting through the sky like a statement that grief on one side always breeds fury on the other. The shot is more than metal and flame, it's the continuation of a story that refuses to end. Every launch, every retaliation, writes another chapter in a book no one wants to read, yet everyone keeps contributing to. Aoub's return to purpose. Despite the trauma, Aoub refuses to remain broken. He approaches Dana with an idea, something bold, maybe desperate, but his own. It's his way of saying, "I'm not done yet." In that small act, the show reminds us that survival isn't just breathing, it's reclaiming agency. Even after darkness, a spark can still ignite. Episode 11 feels like standing in the ruins and realizing the ruins are still alive. Grief and duty, loss and purpose, they coexist, tangled and inseparable. Maya buries a brother, Doran holds a friend, Eli walks away, and Aoub begins again. The world hasn't healed, but the people, somehow, still move forward. Because in Fauda, survival isn't triumph, it's endurance. Fauda Season 4, Episode 12, Recap and Reflection, spoilers ahead. The finale of Fauda Season 4 is a storm of emotion and sacrifice, a battlefield where faith and fate collide. The funeral trap. Omar's funeral becomes a stage for deception. The Israeli team hides among the mourners, hoping to draw out Adel, the man behind the chaos. But Adel is always one step ahead. The funeral turns from a quiet moment of grief into a deadly ambush. Gunfire rips through the air. The line between hunter and hunted blurs in seconds. When everything falls apart, Eli, Sagi, and Steve are struck down in the chaos. Doran, bloodied but relentless, refuses to fall. Every heartbeat becomes a battle, every breath a prayer. In the smoke and screams, he chases Adel, not just to stop him, but to end the war inside himself. The final confrontation. Doran corners Adel, the two men locked in a brutal dance of rage and revenge. It's not just a fight, it's the story of two worlds colliding, both born of pain. When Doran finally ends Adel's life, victory feels hollow. The silence that follows is heavier than the gunfire. The last image, the camera lingers. Doran, lying wounded beside his fallen brothers, their hands reaching for each other. No words, only breath, dust, and prayer. Was it worth it? Did anyone truly win? Sacrifice. Every victory in Fauda costs more than it gives. Faith and fate. Prayers rise even in the ruins. Ambiguous victory. Adel is dead, but so much else dies with him. If you liked it, subscribe to my YouTube channel for more recaps like this.